to Super Bowl VIII. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Jack Whitaker speaking from Rice Stadium in Houston, Texas, where the Miami Dolphins and the Minnesota Vikings are about to play the 8th Super Bowl game to decide the professional championship of football. Here in Houston today, we have a temperature of 52 degrees, the humidity at 80%, and a fog has sprung up around the city. But conditions right now in this handsome stadium are good for the 71,882 people who have showed up. This game is a sellout. Down on the artificial turf now, both teams are taking their warm-ups. The Miami Dolphins, the defending champions, and an unprecedented third straight visit here to the Super Bowl. A big, confident, disciplined team, an armored tank hidden in blue and orange jerseys. Their opponents, the Vikings, visiting the Super Bowl for their second time. White jerseyed with purple trim, they're a potent mixture of offensive finesse and defensive power. Indeed, such are the attributes of these two ball clubs that most people think Super Bowl VIII might be the best of them all. NFL Today presents Super Bowl VIII, sponsored by the B.F. Goodrich Tire Company, makers of the Fixer. They're trying to make the name Goodrich a lot easier to remember.
I'm Patrick Ross, president of the B.F. Goodrich Tire Company. No tire is really puncture.
Being with a gentleman from Tennessee, Mr. Lindsey Nelson.
Well, sometimes the big battles are won up front, and I think that the Miami offensive line has greater incentive because of Larry Zonka running up their backs. I like Miami by about that much. Tommy Mason?
Music and the specialized talents of Miami, the Zonka inside, Morrison kick outside, overcome the overall talents of Minnesota. My heart's with Minnesota, but I like Miami. Frank Cooper, what do you think?
Well, Tommy, the Vikings front four gets most of the publicity, but I like the Dolphins guys in the trenches, the no names. They're second in the league in quarterback traps this year, and I think they'll be targeting Fitz. Miami. Earl Cross, what about you?
Well, Frank, Miami and Minnesota both run well-coordinated zone defenses. The Dolphins' secondary is tough, but I'm picking the Vikings in an upset. Jack Buck, what do you think?
Well, I can't go along with you, and everybody's talking about Zonka, but I think the key to this game and the Miami victory is the fact that Mercury Morris is going to be able to win outside against the outside linebackers of Minnesota. So I'm on Dan Shula's bandwagon. Pete Retzlaff, what about you?
Well, despite the zone defenses today, both teams have the talent to use that running ball effectively, and both teams do. In that department, none better than a healthy Paul Warfield, and that is the question. I like Minnesota. Dan Kelly?
Pete, I think that even though Miami won the Super Bowl a year ago, they've had a great season this year. Some of us underestimate them still. I think they're going to win. I think they may even win very big here today against Minnesota. I know Tom Brookshire will disagree, though.
Dan, I do disagree. The Minnesota front four, the down four on defense, will be under heavy pressure, and they must stop Larry Zonka's inside running ability. I think that Alan Page must play as a Super Bowl player on Super Bowl Sunday. I think he will. I pick Minnesota very close. How about you, Ron Walker?
Brooksy, all they're watching the linebackers, and if young Jeff Seaman can stop Zonka up the middle, I think the Vikings will win. Timmy Brown, how about you?
Boy, I feel that both Miami and Minnesota are pretty equal offensively and defensively. I'm looking for the special teams to play a deciding factor in this game. I played for Don Shula, and I know how much work he stresses on the special teams, so I'm going to go with Miami. How about you, Dick Stockton? Well, to me, Cox and Yepremian are really equal when it comes to field goal percentage, but I think Miami has the big edge in punting. Larry Seipel has averaged 10 yards more than Mike Eyeshot of the Vikings in the playoffs, so I've got to go with the Dolphins. You, John Sauer.
Well, I'll be watching this game from the viewpoint of the coaches. I don't expect any great surprises at the outset. I think both teams will probably go with what has been successful for them during the year. I think maybe Minnesota will win this game.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. That's 7-5 Miami. I'll pick Minnesota to make it 7-6, and the ball game will be just about that close. Also joining us on today's broadcast will be the man who led the Green Bay Packers to the first 2 Super Bowl victories, Bart Starr.
The CBS production crew and I thought that it might be a good idea for me to spend today reporting from the control truck, where through the use of multiple pictures provided on the surrounding monitors, we hope to give you a better idea of the overall strategy of this game. On occasion, during the telecast, we will select a couple of isolated camera shots which will help to illustrate the strategy being involved. Since, as in football, this production crew obviously goes into a telecast with a game plan. By the way, Tom Brookshire is going to join me at halftime for our final edition of NFL Playbook entitled Game Plan, which I think is a fitting climax to this great series. The strategic moves of these two fine football teams will provide the core of this halftime feature. Most of you people have heard about the Miami Dolphins' 53 defense, the 53 being for number 53, Bob Matheson, here rushing the passer from the outside. He is the key to this defense, and here you see him in another position, inside, dropping back to his area of pass coverage responsibility. He's all over the field and does a great job. Because the Miami Dolphins have the finest 1-2 running punch in the National Football League, their game plan strategy is rather simple. They stuff Larry Zonka down your throat, they send Mercury Morris either inside or outside, and they throw sparingly. Speaking of Larry Zonka, you're going to see him here against the Oakland Raiders a couple of weeks ago, making a great cut and going back up inside. And when this fella carries the football, he is extremely tough to bring down. It's a great tackle here by Tatum, but he still rugs him for another 5 yards. We talked about the threat of Mercury Morris. Once Zonka has softened him up inside, you have the elusiveness of this sprinter going to the outside. He's also a fine inside runner, but you see the threat of him here to the outside. Over the past several years under Coach Bud Grant, the Minnesota Vikings have employed a very basic game plan, both offensively and defensively. However, in the 2 games leading up to the Super Bowl game, they departed radically from that, as you're going to see here in a couple of razzle-dazzle plays. In this first one, notice that John Gilliam is here in the slot. And that Tarkington is sending his left halfback, Chuck Foreman, in motion. He's going to hit him on a rather simple play. But because the Cowboys don't adjust that rapidly to it, it's a very effective play, picking up 6, 7, 8 yards or so. Now notice that Gilliam is also in the slot on this play, the same position that you saw him on the previous throw to Foreman. Now watch what Tarkington does here. The Cowboys are now aware of Foreman, so Tarkington sprints out, has created single coverage on the backside and throws the ball as far as he said he could that particular day. A beautiful post pattern to John Gilliam, which at that time was a mighty big score for the Vikings. Here's another play that caught the Dallas Cowboys a little bit by surprise because it involves a double fake. Fran just faked to his fullback. Now he fakes a reverse to Carroll Dale. And now turns and throws back to the fullback. Oscar Reed was all alone out in the flat. A very well conceived play and beautifully executed. On Wednesday of this past week, Paul Warfield suffered a pulled hamstring muscle in practice, and as of right now, no one really knows how well he's going to be able to run. If he can run well, however, you can bet your life that Bob Brees is going to go to him when he needs him, as he does here in this film a couple of weeks ago against the Oakland Raiders. This is a quick post up the middle. Breesy hits him right on the money. And once Paul Warfield catches the ball, you can see why he is such a threat. Just watch. We've only touched on a few of the individual stars and groups that are present here today. Pat Summerall will get into more later, for example, the Minnesota Viking defense. But from this position, as we mentioned to you earlier, we hope to keep you really up to date. That look from high above Rice Stadium here in Houston, Texas. On an overcast day, but the good news a few moments ago, no rain in sight. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Ray Scott. By my side, Pat Summerall. I'd like to spend just a few seconds and talk about incentives involving these two teams today. Many of the Miami Dolphin players the last few days have been quoted as saying that they want to be known as the greatest team that has ever played professional football. And it's entirely possible that the Dolphins are one game away from that sort of recognition. For the Minnesota Vikings, 5 or 6 players perhaps are playing in their last year of competition, and I think have a great incentive to try and go out a Super Bowl winner. Fran Tarkington, the Vikings quarterback, I know wants to erase that label that has been pinned on him by many, that he is a loser, and he has a great chance today to erase that label. So as I see it, Pat, two teams with a tremendous amount of incentive, and I would be very surprised if we do not have a very close game.
I think it's going to be a great football game, perhaps the best Super Bowl of all, Ray. We've talked an awful lot about the men who are involved with the handling of the ball, the quarterbacks, the receivers, the runners, the kickers, and what have you. But in my opinion, I think this football game will be won in the place they call the fifth, in the offensive and defensive lines of both teams. There will be great matchups. Gary Larson will face perhaps the biggest challenge of all the Minnesota defenders because he's playing across the line from one of the finest offensive linemen ever to play pro football, Larry Little, the all-pro guard from the Miami Dolphins. That'll be one we'll be watching. Nick Tingelhoff will have the responsibility of chasing, perhaps, Nick Monaconte, number 85, the fine middle linebacker of the Dolphins. You'll recall in the Dallas-Miami game, the Cowboys set out to contain Monaconte. They did that. They were able to defeat Miami. Minnesota faces that same challenge, in our opinion. The other matchup that we'll be watching particularly is the one that involves Alan Page against Bob Kuchenberg, the other offensive guard for Miami. Kuchenberg is playing with a pin and a broken arm, and he faces Alan Page, an all-pro tackle for so many years, and perhaps the quickest of all the defensive tackles in football. There are many more, and we'll be watching all of those as they battle in the fifth this afternoon.
Now, they say that there can't be any surprises in this game today. Well, we've already had one before it starts. All week long, the Vikings have insisted that offensive guard Milt Sunday will be ready to play. Unfortunately, it has not worked out that way. A few moments ago, we found out Milt Sunday's been taken off the roster. Frank Gallagher will start in his place at offensive right guard. Steve Lawson has been added to the roster. This could make a change.
Certainly could, and based on watching Paul Warfield in the warm-up, I would be very surprised if he is 100% effective. He was limping noticeably. As you know, he pulled a hamstring muscle in the workout on Wednesday. He has not worked out since then, only the jog. It didn't appear to us that he could let it out in the pregame warm-up.
So as far as we know, physically, those are the only things that we should report to you, any different from what you've already read and heard about all week long. A tremendous air of excitement here. We're all anticipating this game this afternoon. We fully believe that this is a game that is going to live up to its title of the Super Bowl. So we're delighted you're with us on Super Sunday, and we'll be ready for the start of Super Bowl VIII right after this word from your local station.
CBS Television Sports proudly presents Super Bowl VIII. Today, the Minnesota Vikings meet the Miami Dolphins. Sponsored by Ford and your Ford dealer. The closer you look, the better you look. And by Boeing, getting people together on the 747. And by Goodyear, makers of the custom steel guard radial tire. And by Sears Die-Hard batteries, which starting power you can count on.
Now, for a last-minute report to CBS Control, Jack Whitaker.
Thank you, Ray. I have Pete Retzlaff here and Wayne Walker have been on the field watching the warm-ups. Wayne, you were over at Minnesota. Any last-minute pregame information?
Well, first of all, I saw a lot of grieving faces out there, Jack. You know, the emotion factor in a game this big is something the coaches really have to watch out for because the losers in this game in previous years have said that they may have been up too high and were too tight for this contest. But Grant tried to hold that down a little bit. He said his team was loose and relaxed all week long. He said he thought they were that way coming into today's game, but like I said, I saw some grieving faces.
All right, Drew, how about the Dolphins?
I think it's pretty much that way, Jack. As you know, it's a game of emotion and skill. It's the type of emotion which dictates how well the skills are going to be used in a game like this. Miami a bit more cavalier in practice, perhaps, than the Dolphins during the week, and then all of a sudden, a half hour later, it dramatically reversed. They became very quiet and subdued. So, it's going to be a good ball game either way.
All right, back to the broadcast booth and Ray Scott.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing the defensive unit of the Minnesota Vikings. First, the front four. Number 81, Carl Eller. Number 77, Gary Larson. Number 88, Alan Page. Number 70, Jim Marshall. Introducing now the linebackers. Number 60, Roy Winston.
Number 50, Jeff Seaman. Number 58, Wally Hilgenberg. And now the defensive backfield. Number 43, Nate Wright. Number 20, Bobby Bryant. Number 23, Jeff Wright. Number 22, Paul Krause. And now, the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, Bud Grant, members of his staff, and the remaining members of the Minnesota Vikings. The defending Super Bowl champions, the Miami Dolphins. First, here are the interior linemen. Number 79, Wayne Moore. Number 67, Bob Kuchenberg. Number 62, Jim Langer. Number 66, Larry Little. Number 73, Norm Evans. And now, the receivers. Number 88 is Jim Mandich. Number 86, Marlon Briscoe. Number 42, Paul Warfield. Here is the backfield. Number 22, Mercury Morris. Number 39, Larry Zonka. Number 12, Bob Greasy. The head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Don Shula, his staff, the remaining members of the Miami Dolphins. Ladies and gentlemen, we take pleasure in introducing Charlie Pride to sing America the Beautiful. We will have Charlie Pride in just a moment. We'll be ready for the kickoff of Super Bowl VIII in just a moment. Singing America the Beautiful, Charlie Pride has led this capacity crowd of over 71,000 in the singing of the national anthem. In a moment, we will have a reenactment of the coin toss, and we would like to tell you of our officials today. The referee, Ben Dwight, graduate of Colorado State University, is a high school teacher in Denver. It's his 14th year as an official. Ralph Moorcroft, the umpires,
Ohio State. He's general manager of the minor league baseball team. Lives in Hollywood, Florida. This is his 13th year. And you'll see there that the Dolphins have won the toss and elected to receive. The line judge, Jack Whitaker, is a sales representative of a sporting goods company, and he lives in Kansas City, Missouri. It's Jack's 9th year. The headline from Leo Miles from Virginia. Director of athletics at Howard University in Washington, D.C. He's a former NFL player. The back judge, Stan Javi from Georgetown, vice president of a paint company in Philadelphia. This is his 23rd year. The field judge is Fritz Graff, and he's the area manager. He's a graduate of Western Reserve, area manager of a medical and hospital equipment company. Lives in Rochester, New York. The alternates today are Dick Jurgensen, Frank Sienkiewicz. Pat, any last-minute words here?
Not really. I think the key thing that we have to look for is how effective Paul Warfield is, as we mentioned a minute ago. In warm-ups, he appeared very stiff and very tight. As you look at Fred Cox now, about ready to kick off Super Bowl VIII.
Deep to receive, number 22, Mercury Morris. Number 13, Jake Scott. This game is played on artificial. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jim Carollo welcoming you to Rice Stadium, Houston, Texas. Super Bowl VIII. Morris. Number 14 to kick off for the Minnesota Vikings. He is ready. Cox. So under overcast skies,
Miami Dolphins. Number 13,
Super Bowl VIII. Mercury Morris ready to start, and we're glad you're with us. This is going to be Jake Scott at the 7. Good run back, 38-yard line, collared by Terry Brown, and Miami's going to start off in a great spot on the field.
I think this is one of the places that the Dolphins perhaps have an edge over Minnesota on special team performance. They have been just excellent.
Paul Warfield, number 42, is starting. The tight end will be Jim Mandich, number 88. Wide receiver, number 86, Marlon Briscoe, will break from that huddle in a second. You know the runners, Mercury Morris, 22, immediately behind Zonka, number 39, and Bob Greasy is the quarterback from the Miami 38-yard line. Warfield is to the left. This is Briscoe in motion. Mercury Morris trying to get outside. Carl Eller gets him from behind. He picks up about 4 yards. And Bart Starr, I want to ask you right here at the outset, what could that man in motion that Miami used do to this defense of Minnesota?
Well, Ray, first of all, it could force Paul Krause into becoming the strong side safety, a position he's not normally used to playing, and this creates also a specific coverage which the Vikings are going to be forced to play also.
We're not going to give you a rundown now of the performers on the field because they are as introduced before the game. Gain of 4, second down, 6 Dolphins, Dolphin 42. Zonka. He picked up just a couple. The Dolphins are going to have a 3rd and 4, and Roy Winston upset him.
This is an awesome Miami running game. Let's look at the blocking here as Kuchenberg comes behind. Larry Little gets a fine block on Jeff Seaman, but Eller and Gary Larson, with help from Roy Winston, managed to control the play at the line of scrimmage. Miami basically a running team. They threw the ball very little in the playoffs so far.
This time, Greasy sets 2 wide receivers to the right, Briscoe and Warfield on 3rd down and 4. This is Briscoe in motion. No, it's Warfield. That was Warfield in motion. Complete first down, 43-yard line of Minnesota, the tight end, Jim Mandich.
And perhaps, Ray, we should also mention an injury to this man. Mandich had a broken thumb. He had played previously with a cast on his thumb. That cast was removed, and now he's just got it wrapped very securely.
Jim Kick was in the backfield on that last play replacing Morris, but he's out of there. Morris is back in as the initial first down of the game belongs to the Dolphins at the Viking 43. Warfield left side, Briscoe right side. Morris, nothing there at all. First man to meet him, Alan Page. Bob Greasy, passing ever so sparingly in playoff action, and for a very good reason. He hasn't had to.
They've been able to control the ball on the ground. Greasy, by the way, says that he concentrates so thoroughly during the course of a game, and he's not aware that there are people in the stands. He's not aware of what his teammates even are saying to him in the huddle. Many times they talk to him, but he doesn't hear.
Jim Kick is in the backfield, number 21. He's lined up to the left of Zonka. Second down, 10. Might have lost a half yard. There goes Zonka. It's a first down inside the 30. Paul Krause, the free safety, had to make the tackle.
Excellent blocking by Kuchenberg on Page. Zonka makes the good cut. It was a cross block, I beg your pardon, between Wayne Moore and Kuchenberg. Kuchenberg blocking out on Jim Marshall. Moore blocking down on Page. The rest is good running by Zonka.
Morris is back in. Dolphins first down and 10. Viking 27-yard line. Briscoe breaks to the right. Warfield comes left. Bobby Bryant is giving Warfield a lot of room. On first down, this is Briscoe. It's complete, 21-yard line in front of Nate Wright, the cornerback who shoved him out. It's going to bring up a second down for the Dolphins. Super Bowl VIII is just underway. The Dolphins took the opening kickoff, and by golly, the team that has been scoring first in these playoffs has gone on to win every time. Have they not done?
This is the kind of situation that certainly the Vikings do want to avoid. There's the other quarterback, the one that Ray mentioned in his opening remarks, that wants to shed for all time the label that has haunted him, I guess you could say, throughout his career. The fact that he cannot win the big one. This is the big one.
Second down, 4. There's Zonka, and that might be another first down around the 16. He dragged Alan Page the last couple of yards with him. And there is Bud Grant, described as imperturbable. Speaking of men who have the ability to concentrate.
It is the first down, Ray. Bud Grant explained, by the way, why he doesn't do much moving around on the sidelines, that he stays in the same place and doesn't pace as some of the other coaches do. He's one of the few who wears a headset and talks directly to his coaching staff. And he says the reason I don't move around is because I got a short cord.
Marlon Briscoe goes to the right, Paul Warfield to the left. The Dolphins have a first and 10 at the Viking 16. Zonka.
Go ahead, Captain Crunch.
Tremendous power. He's within 2 yards of a first down. Looked like it might be a gain of 1 or 2, but Zonka turned it into about an 8-yard gain.
He was hit almost at the same time that he got the ball. We'll watch it from the end zone here and see who makes the initial contact, but they don't get him down. But the offensive line for Miami is doing just about what they want to.
Second down, 2. The ball is at the 8-yard line of the Vikings. This is Mercury Morris. And that looks like a first and goal at the 5. Jeff Seaman and Roddy Hilgenberg made the tackle. Now, Alan Page is talking with one of the officials. I have seen no penalty marker, just a conversation. It's a first and goal. There have been no changes defensively for Minnesota. It is still, as announced, Marshall, Page, Larson, Eller, Hilgenberg, Seaman, Winston, the two rights, Nate and Jeff, Bryant and Krause. Don Shula. Warfield will line up just outside the tight end. Warfield in motion.
Michael Riley got touchdown.
A methodical, beautifully executed drive, and the Dolphins are on the board first with 9:33 left to play in the first quarter.
A play that developed and initially looked like it was going wide to Morris, but back inside to Zonka, and the rest he does by himself. Jeff Seaman is not lined up in front of the center here. He was way over on the weak side. And with the movement that he had to make, he just couldn't get himself set in time to meet the charge of a man as big as Larry Zonka.
Extra point try, Earl Morrow holds, and the Dolphins have the lead by 7 points. So in that drive, Greasy threw twice, completed twice. Zonka carried 5 times, 37 yards, got the touchdown, and it's 7-0. maximum efficiency, Pat. That's about what you'd have to call that drive.
If you diagrammed one, you couldn't put it down on paper any better than that.
Permian to kick. Gilliam, 42. Charlie West, number 40, to receive. This is Charlie West at the goal line. Upset at the 13-yard line. Henry Stuckey, a defensive back of the Dolphins, made that tackle. And so Fran Tarkenton will start with a Minnesota offense that has seen one significant change. At right guard, you will see number 66, Frank Gallagher, in place of Milt Sunday, who had to be deactivated because his knee just did not respond. That leg injury didn't come around, and he is at right guard. Mick Tingelhoff is over the ball. The runners, Foreman, 44, Oscar Reed, 32. Foreman out to about the 19-yard line. Bart Starr, I wonder if I could ask you, in looking back at the Vikings' victory over Dallas when Tarkenton consistently was throwing on first down, was it the nature of the opposition, the type of defense that you think dictated that sort of a strategy on the part of Tarkenton?
I certainly think so, Ray. I think that they felt that you could very well predict what Dallas was going to do, and I think this is the reason they did that.
Doug Kingsrider, number 89, is in. He is a tight end. There are two tight ends in. Foreman. And he did not get back to the line of scrimmage. He was hit very, very hard. And there's going to be no gain on the play. This telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League. It's intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the National Football League is prohibited. Forward progress is near the 19-yard line, and for the Vikings, a key 3rd and 5.
And Miami and their familiar, also familiar, 53 defense with just 3 down linemen and an extra linebacker, number 53, Bob Matheson.
Tarkenton has a 3rd and 5. This is Foreman. And he appears to be about a yard shy of a first down. Manny Fernandez, showing tremendous lateral pursuit, made the tackle.
This is a play that Minnesota used with great effectiveness against Dallas. Pass to Foreman out on the flat. He does a good job of running, but not a very basic job of holding onto the football, or carrying the football, I should say. He didn't lose it. But when you get hit with the ball at arm's length like that, it's pretty tough to hold on.
And so as Tarkenton goes to the sidelines, the punting unit comes in. Mike Ishai to punt. Great return men, Dick Anderson, Jake Scott back, as the Miami defense is equal to the first challenge from the Viking offense. Jake Scott on the run, and he loses the ball. Oh, the Dolphins. Somebody was very alert because Jake Scott was really cracked, and somehow he got the ball back.
Let's look again. This could have been a big break for the Vikings, as Scott really has got to scramble to get it back. Terry Brown had a shot at it right there.
From high above Rice Stadium in the misty skies over Houston, Texas. The synthetic turf, Rice Stadium. Along the sidelines, the Dolphins look out to the field as their offense takes over at the Dolphin 44-yard line. That was Ron Porter who made that big hit. Morris trying to get outside. He turned what looked like a no-gain play. He lost to about a gain of 5.5, and Paul Krause made the tackle.
Jim Marshall almost broke this play down before it got underway. Here comes Little to take him down, but Marshall made a good play. The rest of it is done by Morris and those quick feet. Boy, he can move him, can't he?
Gain from the 44 to the 49. It is a 2nd down and 5. Out to the right is Briscoe. Over to the left is Warfield. It's a strong formation to the right with Mandich on the right side. This is Mandich, the tight end. Roy Winston, the linebacker on that side, the left side, shoved him out of bounds, but this is inside the 45 of Minnesota, and the Dolphins are on the move again with another first down. 6:15 left to play first quarter. Number 88, Jim Mandich.
Just one thing I was checking over the multitude of notes that we have, and I'm sure everybody else does who's here about this game. The team that scored the first touchdown has won every Super Bowl game, and we're number 8.
The Dolphins are leading 7-0. First quarter. Mercury Morris this time. He dives to the 39-yard line. Paul Krause came up to help out Jeff Steeman, and Gary Larson was there too. And so Jim Kick, number 21, is going to replace Morris. Second down. A little more than 5 yards to go for a first down. A 10-play scoring drive by the Dolphins as they lead 7-0. Zonka scored the touchdown. Greasy completed 2 of 2 passes in the drive. Briscoe goes right. Nate Wright moves out with him. Moorfield comes wide left, and Bobby Bryant gives him a lot of room. Zonka shedding tacklers against the first down.
He has just amazing body control and power. Don't underestimate the offensive line. They're doing a good job. As Norm Evans screened out Gary Larson nicely, but the rest of it, again, as we said before, is really just fantastic strength of Larry Zonka, and Bud Grant should be concerned.
First down, Dolphins, Viking 32-yard line. Just 5 minutes now left in the first quarter. Jim Pitt is going on Alan Page, and if he got off the ball fast that time.
He's about as quick off the ball as any lineman in pro football. He lines up very close to his opponent and really just fires off. Kick had no chance.
So one of the very few times as we watch Kick being hit by Alan Page that the Dolphins have lost anything so far today. It was a loss of 2.5. Call it second down 12 at the Viking 34. Zonka. He almost picked up a first down. Nate Wright and Paul Krause from the secondary had to make the tackle as they're continuing to run off that right side with great success off the Dolphins' right side.
This is an excellent call by Greasy. Remember, it's 2nd and 11, and the Vikings are rushing accordingly, expecting a pass. Bart?
Pat, I was just going to second that. That was an excellent call because the Vikings were in a double zone defense to shut off both outside receivers that time, and I thought it was a beautiful call. Great place for it.
Johnson, by the way, has carried 7 times for 57 yards already.
The 2 tight ends will go in now, this familiar maneuver by almost all of the professional teams. Marv Fleming now, number 80, will join Jim Mandich. And Marv Fleming is no stranger to Super Bowl competition.
In fact, with this appearance, he sets an all-time record for one individual playing in Super Bowls. This is number 5. Ray, he's made over $140,000 in playoff money. That's more than I made in 10 years in the league.
Just now, Mercury Morris replaced Jim Kick. It is 3rd, less than a yard, at the Viking 22. Zonka is lined up directly in front of Mercury Morris. There he goes, Zonka. Down to the 14. Jack Whitaker and Paul Krause again had to make the defensive play, which tells us again what this offensive line plus Zonka's power is doing.
There's a guy right there with blocking on Alan Page, number 62, Jim Langer, that you don't hear too much about. Zonka now up to 65 yards, but Langer is one of the best centers in pro football, no question about it. You just don't hear too much about it.
Ever pacing Don Shula looking on as his Dolphins have a first down now at the Viking 14-yard line. On first down.
he got him!
That's Marlon Briscoe at the 1.
Here it goes!
Wright and Jeff Wright made the tackle, but Greasy has been absolutely on target the few times he's thrown.
This is also a remarkable catch by Briscoe. Greasy threw the ball. Ball's in the air before Briscoe ever looked.
He's 4 for 4 now, Pat, for 49 yards is Bob Greasy. Jim Kick is in now. The 2 tight ends are in, Mandich and Fleming. First and goal, Dolphins leading by 7 and less than a yard away from leading by 13. Did he get it?
Yeah.
Roy Winston upsetting. No signal yet that he got into the end zone. He stopped. That close.
Pretty sure his feet got into the end zone. That's the key in a situation like this. The ball has to get over into the end zone for a touchdown to be called. They didn't argue too much, so they must have been satisfied.
So 7 down, goal, put away. Bob Lurtzema is in defensively for Minnesota. Touchdown, Jim Kick.
Yeah, look, Ellis off there.
So the Dolphins strike the first 2 times they have the football.
We've just got a minute and 22 seconds remaining first period. We'll look at the touchdown again. Minnesota's run just 3 plays. Jim Kick. Kuchenberg with an excellent block on Lurtzema right there.
For the second time, the Premian will try for an extra point. Earl Morrill, the holder. There just is not anything that a team should be asked to do offensively and defensively that the Dolphins have not done so far. They've had the ball twice, they've scored twice, the Vikings have had it once, and the defense shut off that Viking offense once.
Sorry about that.
An almost exact duplication of the other scoring drive. 10 plays on each occasion. Premian ready to kick, Gillian and West to receive. Charlie West at the 5. A marker is back at the Viking 20-yard line as West went out of bounds at the 24. Bill Brown, the veteran running back of the Minnesota Vikings, checking with the officials, and referee Ben Dreith in a moment will give us the call. Holding Minnesota. So to add to the Vikings' woes, they must start here. Fran Tarkenton and his offensive unit from very deep in Viking territory. The Vikings will have Grady Alderman, 67, Ed White, 62, Mick Tingelhoff, 53, Frank Gallagher, 66. There again is that Sam Holden. By the way, on Sunday, the 27th of January, the CBS Island Sports will become a weekly feature here on the network.
This fast-paced sports news, features, and commentary program will be hosted by our colleague Jack Whitaker.
Right here on CBS, where you see the best in sports on the #1 network. Vikings from the Viking 11. On first down, Tarkenton, the foreman. He is a gain up to the 16-yard line. It'll be 2nd and 5, and Mike Coolin and Dick Anderson made that defensive play. Since we did not introduce the Viking offensive unit before the game, nor the Dolphins defensive unit, let's do that right now. We got down as far as Frank Gallagher, I believe, the right guard, playing in place of Milt Sunday. Ron Yerry, number 73, is the right tackle. Stu Voigt, number 83, is the tight end, and he's joined now by another tight end, Doug Kingsrider, number 89. The running backs are Chuck Foreman, number 44, the brilliant rookie, Oscar Reed, number 32. Wide receiver, John Gillian, number 42, is out to the left. This is Oscar Reed. Manny Fernandez colors him after a gain of a couple.
Bud Grant, of course, on the left side, and Don Shula. because this is what they look like in their playing days, which is back about 1950. Bud Grant and Don Shula. Both were great competitors, I'm sorry.
For the Vikings, 3rd down and 4, and Matheson is in that Miami Dolphin defensive unit now. Foreman in motion. Doug Kingsrider, the tight end, has the first down of the game for the Minnesota Vikings, and he really got that in traffic.
But he took a heck of a catch to get the Vikings their first down.
That might have been the final play of the first quarter because the last 5 seconds are right now ticking away. That's the end of the first quarter with the score. The Miami Dolphins 14, the Minnesota Vikings nothing. The preceding announcement was brought to you by the National Football League. For the Dolphins, Bill Stanfield 84, Manny Fernandez 75, Vern Denherter 83. Bob Matheson has been added, number 53, to linebackers Doug Swift, Nick Bonacani, and Mike Colin. First down Vikings, Viking 27-yard line. Foreman. He's out to the 32-yard line. Bob Matheson made the tackle. And now the remaining members of this Dolphin defense have been on the field such a very short period of time, we haven't had a chance to give you a rundown. The cornerbacks are Curtis Johnson, 45, Lloyd Mumford, 26, Dick Anderson, 40, Jake Scott, 13 are the safety men. The Vikings picked up 5 yards on first down, so it's second and 5 now at the Viking 32. And Minnesota still going with the 2 tight ends.
I think probably because of the frequency in which Miami plays that defense with only 3 down linemen, with an extra linebacker. They feel they can run against it, or they should.
Oscar Reed just across the 35, and Minnesota will have a 3rd and 1.5, and it was Manny Fernandez, number 75, who stopped the running play. Now, Bob Hines, number 72, will replace Matheson, and the Vikings are going to make a change. Number 68, Chuck Goodrum, is coming in, and Doug Kingsrider goes out, and Goodrum has many times come into play in a short yardage situation.
If he lines up on the end of the line, which he is doing now in the backfield, in fact, not now, but he is an eligible pass receiver. He is reported to the referee.
Oscar Reed might be short. He needed to reach just beyond the 37. The Vikings, or the Dolphins, are already sending in members of their special team anticipating a Minnesota punt. In the Dallas game, Bart, I'm not sure how many times, but the Vikings again and again in a situation like this, they went for the first down and Bud Grant okayed it. They certainly did, and they made every gamble they made that day pay off for them, Ray.
But as I recall, it was deeper in Dallas territory than where they are now, and the punting unit is coming on.
So Mike Eyeshide will punt as the Dolphins lead the Vikings by 14-0. That's Alan Page apparently talking with Neil Armstrong. Pat, did you guess?
I think he got the headset.
Carl Eller.
That is Carl Eller, who got the headset away from Neil Armstrong to talk with one of the Viking coaches upstairs.
Jake Scott at the 21. Gets it out to the 28, and there he met Mick Tingelhoff. Now let's see, can the Dolphins quite possibly put together yet another scoring drive? They've had 2 touchdowns, both of them 10-play scoring drives. No changes for Miami, no changes for Minnesota. Zonka and Morris will start out as the running backs on 1st and 10. Both wide receivers are on the left, Briscoe and Warfield. Briscoe in motion. Mercury Morris.
Whoa, Mercury! Woo! Look at him go!
On the 40. Chased out of bounds by Jeff Wright. Lightning quick, Mercury Morris gets outside.
This is one of the best looking offensive units I think I've ever seen. The block by Kuchenberg took Eller out. Zonka got the block on Jeff Sieben. Mercury Morris cut, got away from Winston, and then his speed did the rest for him.
First down, Dolphins. Dolphin 42-yard line. 14-0. The Vikings have not been able to get to midfield. Zonka trying to get outside, and he is held, and I use that word advisedly, held to about a 3-yard gain. And that was Wally Hilgenberg who got to him at the out-of-bounds line and help from Jim Marshall. Gain on the play, 2.5 yards. Kick comes in, number 21. That touchdown scored by Kick, the Dolphins' second of the game, was his first of this 1973-74 season.
Young man next to Don Shula behind him now is his oldest son, David, who keeps charts and records that Don likes to refer to.
Second and 8. Roy Winston came on to help, so the Vikings were blitzing on second and 8. So there's something that'll go into his notebook, young Shula.
Well, we mentioned before how quick Alan Page is off the ball, and he lines up. Many times it looks like he might even be off sides, and then as quick as he is, if he has a gap on either side of the offensive guard, he's just by you and into the backfield before he can make a move.
There was a loss of 11. It is a third down and 19. Jim Kick, number 21, is in. Briscoe to the right, Warfield to the left. He's throwing for Briscoe. And Greasy really got decked. I don't know how he got rid of that football. Carl Eller hit Greasy the instant he released that football, and he still was right on target.
There is no way that he could have known whether that pass was caught or not. Mark Stone?
Thank you very much, Pat. I think right here in this play we're going to see why Paul Krause is such a great free safety. Watch how far he comes on this throw. Keep your eye on him. Keep your eye on him. Just watch him come here. His action says it all. The ball was well thrown, but look how far he came. Great free safety.
And you know, Bart, that's the first pass that Greasy has not completed. Larry Sipe with a punt. Oh, an all-out rush, but he gets it away. Fair catch. Bobby Bryant. Vikings will have it at the Viking 27 as the Dolphins, for the first time today, are forced into a punting situation, and the play that set it up was a great play by Alan Page in nailing Greasy. Change for the Dolphins. At the left corner, Tim Foley, number 25, in place of Lloyd Mumford. First down, Minnesota, Viking 27-yard line, and there's Larry Zonka, who has already carried for big yardage and scored the first touchdown. Kingsrider, number 89, is wide to the right. Gilliam to the left. This is Foreman. Pickup of about 3 yards. Dick Anderson from the secondary and Tim Foley, his teammate, in that second line of defense, made the tackle. And now on 2nd and 8, Bob Matheson comes in, Bob Hines goes out, and that'll happen a lot of times.
Anytime the Dolphins think they have you in even a possible passing situation, they make that change.
This time, Gilliam and Kingsrider are to the left. And Fernandez, Dale Tarkenton inside the Viking 20.
This is what makes that defense so tough to block out, because you don't really know if Matheson's going to rush or if he's going to drop off in pass coverage. This time he does rush. He gets away there from Gallagher, and then Vern Dinherter and Manny Fernandez take Tarkenton down.
Loss on the play of 11 yards. Third down, 17. Larry Zonka apparently sustained an injury around his one eye. So on third and long yardage, King's Rider goes right. Gilliam comes left. 10.5 minutes left to play in the first half. 14-0 Miami. Tarkenton. King's Rider.
No good.
Vikings believe he should have been ruled to have been in bounds. Let's watch it again.
King's Rider, who is normally a tight end, being hit by Tim Foley, getting back up. I don't think he had first down yardage when he had to come back for the ball, but perhaps he did. They dropped the markers on the sideline. Got to have both feet in bounds. And our view is just obliterated.
No, he did.
It was ever so close. But he was ruled out of bounds. Mike Eyeshide to punt. He hits a very good one. Fair catch. Jake Scott, 34-yard line of the Dolphins. This Tuesday night on CBS, the NBA All-Star game from Seattle. Pat, you'll be there for that game. It starts 9:30 Eastern Time.
All the game's great players compete with the East, of course, against the West. The Eastern players include Dave Cowens, John Havlicek, Lou Hudson, Pete Maravich, Bob McAdoo, and the like. West players, Rick Barry, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jeff Petrie. Great players all in the NBA All-Star game.
The best in basketball on the #1 network, right here on CBS. Dolphins at the Dolphin 34-yard line. It's Morris in the slot to the left. Briscoe coming in motion. Zonka trying to get outside, and this time the Dolphins closed it in pretty well as cornerback Nate Wright turned it in. Eller and Larson were there to make the tackle. A marker was dropped in that last play. Personal foul against Minnesota. So a costly penalty now, and instead of a short gain on Zonka's run, a major penalty against the Vikings with just under 10 minutes left to play in the first half. And the ball comes over to the Viking 39-yard line. And referee Ben Greif now gives the signal again. Personal foul. A capacity crowd here at Rice Stadium, Houston, Texas. And Wally Hilgenberg was the man ruled to have committed the personal foul. Linebacker for the Vikings. 1st and 10, Dolphins. Bobby Bryant really hit Paul Warfield, grabbing off his, I think that's his first catch of the game. And he really was greeted by cornerback Bobby Bryant. But a gain on the play of 6 yards, and it'll be 2nd down and 4. And Greasy has completed all of his passes. Let's see, except 1. 5 out of 6, 55 yards. Warfield left, Briscoe right. 2nd down, 4 Dolphins. Zonka, about a yard short of a first down at the 40 as Hilgenberg and Seaman pinched in to make the tackle.
For the most part, Miami has been double teaming Alan Page with center Jim Langer and left guard Bob Kuchenberg. And there is the double team again. This time Wayne Moore is involved, and they did a fine job.
2 tight ends, Mandich and Fleming, on 3rd and less than 1 at the Viking 40. Warfield comes right. Morris. He ran into Indian bleachers, or he might have had even greater yardage. Paul Krause had to make the tackle at the Viking 30.
And that offensive line, look at him come off the ball. Zonka leading the play through. Mercury Morris. There's some argument as to who is the strongest man on this Dolphin team. But Merck is certainly one of three. The other two are Fernandez. The other one is rookie guard named Newman, Ed Newman.
Briscoe is back in. Fleming is out. First and 10 Dolphins. Zonka. An incredible performance by Larry Zonka.
Just can't get him down. Morris leading the play. Zonka now has 81 yards and 12 carries.
He picked up about 8 that time, 8.5 at second and less than 2. And almost 8 minutes remained in the first half. The Dolphins scoring the first 2 times they had possession. And Miami very, very close to breaking this game wide open. Goes Zonka again. This time there is nothing there at all. And the man responsible, young middle linebacker Jeff Seaman with help from Jim Marshall. Seaman wears number 50, Marshall is 70.
Jeff Seaman has done quite a job. He is, of course, number 50. And he's the man, whether it be Seaman or Bonaconti, that really the offensive line has to contain and control, because the middle linebacker is the key to almost every defense.
I think we can label this maybe the most important play of this first half. It could decide whether the Dolphins go on and really do break it wide open. Zonka, and he didn't get the first down. He's just short of the 20. He was upset by Carl Eller. Gary Larson helped out. And the kicking unit goes on. So, Darrell Ipamian will try to put the Dolphins in front by 17 instead of 14, as Don Shula has made the decision to go for 3. The clock running, and the ball is snapped. About 6 minutes will remain in the first half. And again, the holder is Earl Morrow. This will be an attempt of 28 yards. Certainly has the distance, and he's right on target. So, what department have the Dolphins not excelled in so far? They've done just everything that could be asked of a football team. And as a result, with 6:02 left, lead by 17. Total yardage so far, net. Miami Dolphins, 153. Minnesota Vikings, 27. The Premium getting ready to kick. From the sliver. It was overrun by Gilliam, and Charlie West will have to watch it roll over the end line for a touchback. So the Vikings will start from the Minnesota 20, and correct me, Pat, I don't believe Minnesota's been in Dolphin territory yet.
Not yet. Miami has already scored more points, 17, than any other team has in the Super Bowl in the first half.
Mumford has replaced Foley now at the left corner. Lloyd Mumford, number 26. Other than that, the Dolphin defense remains as it has been most times. Foreman. Dolphins closing fast in the person of linebacker Doug Swift, and the brilliant Foreman is held to a gain of a yard. And Kingsrider comes off the bench now, number 89, and he'll replace Carroll Dale, who was in on the last play, as Bud Grant looks on as his Vikings have a long, long road to go.
This is probably an offensive change we'll see throughout the day. It looks like something new for Minnesota. That is the 2 tight end offense, and they'll use it particularly against this defense for Miami with only 3 linemen down.
2nd and 8. Chuck Foreman, the intended receiver, but almost picked off, and it's going to be 3rd down and 8.
We mentioned before that it's overcast and very misty, but 52 degrees, and we were told no threat of rain here in Houston. And that gives us a chance to remind you that the unprecedented cold weather in Kansas City, where it's 5 degrees below, we're told, and 14 to 16 inches of snow, has forced workouts for the AFC-NFC Pro Bowl game to be switched to San Diego.
For the Vikings, a 3rd and 8. This is caught by tight end Stu Boyd. Well, that was a great catch. And it's a Viking first down at the Viking 39-yard line.
It is a great catch, Ray. He had to come back for the ball just a little bit. His feet slipped. And had quite a bit of rain here during the week. But he still kept his eye on the football and came back and made a fine catch. Stu Boyd, he's had a good year without much recognition.
First downs tells quite a story. Sometimes first downs are misleading. Not in this game. This is Oscar Reed, unable to hold on, and closing in on him was Doug Swift. Ball might have been thrown just a little bit behind him, and he had to make a turn I'm sure he didn't want to make. I don't believe that the most rabid Miami Dolphins fan, Pat, and Bart Starr expected this kind of dominance by their Dolphins over the Vikings at this stage of the game, certainly.
I don't think so either.
We said in unison. Bob Matheson now comes out of the lineup, and that means that Bob Hines is back in. 2nd down and 10. Nope, they're still going with 3 down men and an additional defensive back, Tim Foley. Foley outside. Vern Den-Herder held him up behind the line so that he was able to get back just to the line of scrimmage, and it is going to be 3rd down and 10. And remember, the Vikings have yet to cross midfield, and only 4 minutes and 10 seconds remain in the first half, as this Miami Dolphin defense has been just nothing less than brilliant. 3rd down, 10. Gilliam right. Kings right or left. Fine catch. Stu Boyd, 45-yard line. Ruled the 46-yard line that it was dead. Lloyd Mumford thought he had the football, but it was ruled to be in possession of the Vikings with 3.5 minutes left in the first half. Here it is again.
Another fine catch by Stu Boyd. Another good throw by Tarkenton.
Bart, Graham Tarkenton has now, of course, the obvious battle of the clock as well as this Miami Dolphin defense.
Well, he does, and the thing that I wanted to mention right here was that he deserves a lot of credit for finding someone open into that maze.
Oscar Reed, the man in motion. This is Gilliam. And he'll wind up with about 3 very tough yards as Dick Bonaconti and Mike Colon, 2 of Miami's linebackers, played very well against that pass completion.
I think one thing about this Miami defense, played so well all year long, they have so many different variations that they can throw at you. They deal really in confusion. Bart said a minute ago, it's a maze. The problem is they don't get confused, they get you confused.
Rookie Jim Lash, number 82, is lined up as a wingback right on 2nd down 7 at the Dolphin 43. Corner in motion. Fumble. I think Tarkenton held on, but loses a couple, and Vern Den-Herder was on top of him. Looked like they were trying to flood receivers on the right side that time, Pat.
They had Jim Lash and Chuck Foreman as well as Gilliam all out on that same side. Miami, if you've ever watched them play, you know they play one of the finest zone defenses in pro football. And in order to beat a zone, you got to put a lot of receivers in one area.
That whistle means that we have a 2-minute warning. 2 minutes left to play in the first half. The Vikings struggling to get on the board and trailing 17-0 with 2 minutes left in the first half. As the Vikings are faced with a 3rd and 9 at the 45 of Miami, it might be well to keep in mind that Fred Cox of Minnesota, his longest field goal of this season came in the playoff game against Dallas at 44 yards. So would have to be considered to be beyond his range right now. It's the 53 defense featuring Bob Matheson now on 3rd and 9. Gilliam. He's down at the 15-yard line. Curtis Johnson finally got it. And the Vikings have immediately asked for a timeout, and they'll have a minute 46 left to play in the half, and play is resumed. Bart, how about that for a brilliant pattern run by Warfield?
Well, it was an excellent route run by John Gilliam. I'm sorry, Gilliam, Bart. Our viewers are going to watch right here. This is Gilliam coming out, and it's probably one of the deeper patterns you'll see thrown against this, but very effectively. He's going inside here. The ball is on rhythm. And now this guy also has the ability to do something really once he catches it. This is a great play by Fran Tarkenton and John Gilliam.
So number 42 of the Vikings, John Gilliam, runs the sort of a pattern that we saw Paul Warfield, number 42 of the Dolphins, running their playoff victory against Oakland.
It's something that Gilliam and Tarkenton both use, I think, fine judgment in. And looking at that defense Bart Starr was just pointing out a minute ago, it is almost impossible to get behind those 3 deep men in the Miami zone. They just take off. So Gilliam, I think, used a lot of judgment in cutting underneath.
Cooley has replaced Mumford. Tarkenton keeping. And he's down to the 7 and 8 yard line. Within about 2.5 yards of a first down. And I don't think there was any doubt that that was a planned play on the part of Tarkenton.
No doubt about it. He never even looked for anybody to throw it to. Plus, the offside of his offensive line was downfield blocking, trying to set up a wall for it.
Second down, 2.5. The Dolphins 7.5. Oscar Reed, and he gets nothing at all. He's met by Bob Matheson, number 53. The Vikings ask for a timeout. 1 timeout remaining now to Minnesota, and it is going to be 3rd down. Let's see where the ball is placed, as Tarkenton is going to consult with the Minnesota coaches. It's going to be 3rd down and still 2.5 yards for a first down.
I think, Ray, one of the worst things that can happen to you in a football game or in the season or whatever the case might be is to become predictable. And we have said so many times when the Vikings get into a situation where they need short yardage for a first down, they run toward Ron Urey, who they consider to be their finest offensive blocker. They have done it twice without success. They did it just in Reed. They did it once before. This gives us a chance, as you look at John Gilliam, to remind you that he and Jim Mandich of the Dolphins will be among the NFL players making a trip to Korea, Japan, and other Far East locations. It's the 9th straight year the NFL has cooperated with the USO and the Department of Defense. The great thing they've all done is all done in their own time. And we are sure, of course, the hospitalized American servicemen certainly do appreciate it, as do the sponsoring USO and the Department of Defense. Gilliam, Mandich, and more will make that trip.
3rd down, about 3 yards for a first down. The ball at the Miami 8. A minute 13 remaining in the first half. Oscar Reed. And from the defensive unit, number 88, Alan Page looks on as Reed carried to the 6. Now here is a big decision. Are the Vikings going to be satisfied with 3 points? Are they going to go for a first down? And limping off the field is Vern Denherter, number 83, and Bob Hines, number 72, is going to replace him. And they're going to go for it. Time left, less than a minute, and the clock is running. 2 tight ends, Kingsrider. Chuck Goodwin, number 68, comes in. 4th and 1 at the 6.
Vikings have 1 more timeout remaining.
Oscar Reed, I don't think he got it. Nick Bonaconti, the middle linebacker, made a great defensive play. For the first down, they came up empty, and the Dolphin defense has made a tremendous play.
3 times in crucial situations where they run to the same spot. Ed White pulling, but they're running behind the blocking of Ron Urey. And as I said a minute ago, the worst thing that can happen to you, or certainly one of the worst, is to become predictable.
Mark, do you have any thoughts about that situation of a moment ago?
Yes, I do. I think he pointed out very well. Miami went to the area just as quick as the Vikings did.
So the Dolphins have the ball at the Dolphin 5 with 30 seconds left in the half. And Zonka burrows straight ahead for a yard or so. Let's check what Larry's running yardage is so far here in the first half. He has gained 83 yards and 15 carries, has Larry Zonka, as Bud Grant and Fran Tarkenton were just chatting an instant ago, and the final seconds are ticking away, and I would doubt whether we'll have any more plays here in the half, except that the Vikings called time with 12 seconds remaining.
And as I mentioned a minute ago, that's their last one. And this becomes, I suppose, one of the important points of the first half, the fact that they had to use 2 other timeouts on that previous drive when they didn't make the first down. Now that's their last one. There's no other way for them to stop the clock now.
Bart, I wonder if I could ask you, it just seemed to me that failing to get that first down, and failing to score, and ignoring the 3 points, it seemed to be almost certain it could do a tremendous thing to the morale of the Vikings.
It certainly could, and I think we're going to take a good look at that in this second half. But, you know, they have done a good job coming up to now and taking some gambles. They've paid off for them, and perhaps they really thought they could get it. Obviously, it was a very short distance to get.
Second down and 10 at the Dolphin 5. Clock will start with the snap. Zonka protecting the ball has carried for the final play now of the half as the Vikings timeouts are gone. That's the end of the first half with the score. The Miami Dolphins 17, the Minnesota Vikings nothing. Earlier this afternoon, you had the opportunity to view the finals of the Ford Punt, Pass, and Kick program. Now here's Jack Buck to announce the winners.
The trophies presented to these champions by Mr. Pete Rozelle, the Commissioner of the National Football League. Mr. Richard Helmold, Chairman of Ford National Dealer Council. Mr. Ben Bidwell, Vice President and General Manager of Ford Division. The 8-year-old winner is Sean Benson from Chillicothe, Missouri, representing Kansas City. The 9-year-old winner is Todd Frankie from St. Louis, Missouri, representing the Cardinals. The 10-year-old winner, Richard Johnson from Gladewater, Texas, representing the Dallas team. The 11-year-old winner is Dan Samudio from National City, California, representing San Diego. The 12-year-old winner, John Lasella from Mount Holly, New Jersey, representing the Philadelphia Eagles.
There you go.
And the 13-year-old winner is Dave Pryor from Hemet, California, representing San Diego. Congratulations to the young men, and let's give these national champions a great round of applause.
For Pat Summerall, we've had a chance to hear what Bart Starr had to say about what he thinks the Vikings could possibly do here in the second half to try and get back into this game. And the statistics in the first half, as you can see, favoring Miami by quite a margin, on the ground in particular. What do you think is going to have to be done here by Minnesota?
It's a very difficult situation to be in against a team that plays all phases of the game as well as Miami does. This is the man, of course, who faces that challenge, Bud Grant. The worst possible situation that can happen is to try to come from behind against a team like this. If you go back and look how many times that happened during the regular season, Miami outscored their opponents in the first half 213 points to 69. So they're used to being in this situation. They are a team that does not panic when they get ahead. They are basically a conservative football team, and that's the position they find themselves in right now. A very enviable position because they can afford to do what they do best in this situation like this, and that is keep the ball on the ground. They have just an awesome running attack. Minnesota can't afford to do that. They've got to take some chances. They've got to put the ball up in the air, and they're doing it against a very, very fine Miami defensive unit.
So the final huddles are over. The second half is about to begin. Just in that rare case that you may not have been with us, it is 17-0 in favor of the Dolphins. Zonka scored the first touchdown, kicked the second. Permian added both extra points and kicked a field goal. The Vikings gambled 4th and 1 at the 6-yard line of Miami and did not get the first down as they turned their back on a 3 points from Fred Cox, the kicker. So Permian prepares to kick to John Gilliam and Charlie West, and shortly we will know whether the Vikings can get something going and get back in this game. Gilliam at the 1. He got away from Permian. A marker is down. Tim Foley might have saved a touchdown, but there's a marker down at the Viking 21-yard line, and I do believe this is going to be called back.
The Vikings.
Minnesota.
That's the kind of break to begin the first half that the Vikings really need to get themselves a win. That could turn out to be the penalty of the game.
So the infraction occurred in the vicinity of the 21. The Vikings must start from just beyond their 10, as again referee Ben Greif indicates clipping against Minnesota. So Gilliam's brilliant return is nullified. And as Bart Starr pointed out at halftime, the Vikings are going to have to look at that 53 defense, and it's Stu Boyd who was guilty of clipping. Gilliam and Carroll Dale come out wide left. Veteran receiver Carroll Dale. Foreman. That's about 3. And Bart Starr, I'd like to ask you what the presence of a Carroll Dale means to a quarterback.
Well, it means everything, Ray, because he's probably one of the most disciplined route runners in the history of professional football, and with the many zones that you face today, he not only is a great route runner, but he can help you young receivers a great deal also. As it turned out, Carroll was in for just that one play, and as Foreman gained 2, it is 2nd and 8. And Kingsrider replaces Dale, and he is going to line up as the wide receiver to the left. Was almost intercepted by linebacker Mike Colin. Foreman wound up with it, but Colin had nothing but 13 yards of synthetic turf in front of him.
My.
Within inches of being 24-0 now. As Colin, number 57, watch him. He's got a perfect shot at this. Right through his hands and into the hands of Chuck Foreman.
Yeah, but lost of 3 yards.
There is no gain on the play, and it is 3rd down and about 8.
Huh?
Offensive line, Alderman, White, Tingelhoff, Gallagher, Yari. Foreman in motion.
Fernandez! Pocket field, baby!
Fernandez got away from Frank Gallagher, I believe it was, and nails Tarkenton, and Fernandez continues his brilliant Super Bowl play.
He's involved first with Vic Tingelhoff. Number 75 with his back to you. What a great Super Bowl he had last year against Washington. Gallagher didn't see him coming soon enough to turn and try to pick him up. He's just as fast as Tarkenton.
Now Mike Eyeshide from deep in the end zone, punting to Anderson and Scott. Eyeshide has a fine punt. Back at the Miami 45, Jake Scott trying to get outside.
No, good, Jake. Good shot.
Fine run back to the 43-yard line of Minnesota. CBS has a variety of sports on tap for the winter and spring. In addition to NBA basketball, we've been talking about CBS Sports Spectacular and Eye on CBS Sports.
You'll also be seeing golf specials, including the Jackie Gleason Inverary Classic in February, the Masters Tournament in April. Then there's the new CBS Golf Championship. This year, the CBS Tennis Classic also will be expanded to 1 hour a week.
That's here on CBS, the best in sports on the #1 network. Bob Greasy and company take over 1st and 10 at the Viking 43. Zonka and Mercury Morris. Mercury Morris. Held firm by middle linebacker Jeff Seaman, number 50, and there might have been a gain of 1.
Jeff Seaman, number 50, as we mentioned a minute before. The performance of the middle linebacker often dictates how well a team does. Seaman has performed very well all year and continue to do so on that play.
Kick comes in, number 21. It is 2nd and 9. Warfield in the slot to the right. Warfield in motion. That hole closed at the 38-yard line, and the Dolphins will have a 3rd and 5, and it's Jeff Seaman again who made a fine play.
Again, let's watch him individually. Watch his quick reactions. This was a passing situation, of course. The Dolphins ran a draw, as Greasy did with success in the first half.
3rd down, 5. For the Vikings, Marshall, Page, Larson, Eller, Hilgenberg, Seaman, Winston, Nate Wright, Jeff Wright, Krause, and Bryant. 3rd and 5, great protection.
After watching him warm up, I thought there'd be no way that he'd be able to play with any degree of effectiveness in this game. Just a fine pass by Greasy and a really a spectacular catch.
Yeah, reach the ball.
Mark? And Pat, the point I was going to make is that was a double zone again, and I think the strong safety, Jeff Wright, just made a mistake and blew it.
1st down at the Viking 11. Zonka.
Barry Zonka.
To the 7. Carl Eller. Jeff Seaman.
From above, let's watch the offensive blocking again. Langer cutting off Larson, who appeared to go the wrong way. Norm Evans blocking on Eller. Seaman over in part of the action at the end.
10 minutes remaining, 3rd period. Greasy now is 6 and 7. 72 yards. Maybe the 5. Winston ran him out of bounds. It's going to be 3rd down and 4.
We hear so much about what a fine runner Fran Tarkins is, but Greasy is probably just as good a runner. He doesn't do it as much. But he had 3 big gainers last week against Oakland, 2 weeks ago, I should say. And he's a good runner. In fact, these 2 quarterbacks probably throw as well on the move as anybody around.
For the Dolphins, it is a 3rd down and 4 at the Viking 5.
Larry Zonka touchdown.
Greasy sends Briscoe to the right. Warfield to the left. Mercury Morris. Bobby Bryant nails him and a marker goes flying. Let's see what the preliminary signal is.
According to Greasy, it's defensive holding against Minnesota, but let's see.
If so, that means it is a first down and goal for the Dolphins, as the Vikings have consistently today been grievously injured by penalties.
This is another place where I guess you'd have to say the Dolphins have a tremendous edge. They are the least penalized team in all of pro football. They were not penalized at all in the first half. They have not been yet.
Now let's watch this signal. The ball is placed at the 8-yard line. Bob Greasy is asking referee Ben Drive to explain this. Holding Minnesota. First down. Let's see, that play ended out of bounds around the 16-yard line, so it's a half the distance from the 16. But it is a first and goal at the 8.5. And Tarkenton looks on. Jim Kick is in. He's lined up to the left of Zonka. Zonka.
Touchdown,
Down to the 2. Bryant upsetting. But Wayne Moore did a fine job in front of Zonka.
The whole left side of the offensive line does a good job. Kuchenberg, Moore, and Landon who's over there this time, too. Big hole, as he pointed out.
91 yards ago.
Right?
In fact, that's a classic fullback play, that slant play. I don't think there's anyone around today that runs any better than Larry Zonka.
For the Vikings, led by the Super Bob Lurtzman, number 75. He has taken out the free safety Paul Krause. Second and goal at the 2.
There it goes!
Three last playoff game, the championship game of the AFC against Oakland. He has 2 today. We're down level. Somebody just got a piece of him. I think it was Roy Winston. Perhaps it was Hilgenberg. But there's no way to get him down with an arm. 20 carries, 93 yards for Zonka.
Morrow holds for Ekremian with 8:24 left to play in the third quarter. And I think it's pretty safe to say that when the Vikings get the ball the next time, whether they score or not, will dictate whether we have a runaway Miami victory. From high above Rice Stadium here at Houston, Texas, I believe the mist has lifted just a little bit, but fortunately we've had no rain. Ekremian kicks. Gilliam at the 5. He gets it out to the 26-yard line. Bob Matheson made the tackle.
This is Zonka's last touchdown. A few minutes ago, Greasy almost dropped the ball in the exchange from his center. What a fine charge by the offensive line. Let's look again. Jim Kick, who was in the game, didn't even have to block.
Tarkenton sends Gilliam to the left. And he makes a correction now and has Carroll Dale also on the left as a slot back. Tarkenton picks up about 6 where he met Matheson.
The Dolphins would be happy to let him do that for the rest of the afternoon. Obviously, he could not find anybody open and had to take off. Amazing thing that goes along with that statistic is that he has never been out because of an injury.
Carroll Dale was in for just the first down play. Kingsmider replaces him now, 2nd and 4. This is Foreman. He has a first down. Manny Fernandez made the tackle. So the Vikings trying desperately desperately to get something going. If you missed the action toward the end of the first half, the Vikings had an opportunity on 4th and 1 at the Miami 6 to go for an almost certain 3 points. They elected to run for the first down and didn't get it. Bart?
I think it might be interesting for our viewers to realize why the Vikings have 2 tight ends in there against this 3-man rush. It's an ideal thing to do is run with the ball.
First down at the Viking 41. Reed. Oscar Reed picks up 6. He's out to the Viking 47. Gary Larson, number 77, one of the front 4 of the Minnesota Vikings. And they have been handled very well so far today by that offensive line of the Dolphins.
Larson has the unenviable task of facing Larry Little. And that's a tough job for anybody.
It is 2nd and 4, and Gilliam is to the left and Kingsrider to the right. 6:40 left to play, 3rd quarter. Oscar Reed. And he's going to lose a couple as cornerback Tim Foley, with help, played it very, very well.
This was almost a lateral, as Francis had to throw it over the head, I would assume. Defensive lineman Vernon Herder out to Oscar Reed. No, it's not quite a lateral, but almost. But he had to throw the ball so high to get it over to Herder, who's 6'6", that he couldn't get anything on it. Great pursuit by that defensive unit.
It's a loss of 1. It is 3rd and 5.
Number 36.
There was Bob Matheson, and it is 4th and 5. And the punter comes on.
Miami in a 3-man defense again, but 3rd and 5 and trailing 24-0. It's hard to understand a call like that. But as Bart pointed out a minute ago, when you look at that 3-man line defensive setup, you think you ought to be able to run against it.
It is 4th down and 4, and Mike Eyeshide will be running to Jake Scott, who is backing up around the 10-yard line now. Off the side of his foot, but a good roll for Minnesota. And it's going to be down at the 11-yard line of the Miami Dolphins. And with 5:03 left to play in the 3rd quarter, the Dolphins, with a 24-0 cushion, will again have the football.
Marv Fleming. 2 Super Bowls with Green Bay, now 3 with Miami.
First down, Dolphins from the Dolphin 11. Mercury Morris to the 14. Carl Eller has him in his grasp, and it's going to be 2nd down and 7. Looking back on it now, barring a sudden turn here in the fortunes of the Minnesota Vikings, the tone of this game was set when Bob Greasy took the Dolphins after the opening kickoff on a perfectly executed 10-play touchdown drive with Larry Zonka getting the touchdown.
What the Dolphins need right now is a sustained drive. What the Vikings need is no first downs by Miami and get the ball back just as soon as possible.
Zonka. 27-yard line. Wally Hilgenberg made the tackle.
From behind Larry Zonka, you get a chance to see the awesome power of the great touch which he has. 21 carries, 107 yards already. Wally Hilgenberg got the run.
It's a first down at the Miami 27. Briscoe comes right. Warfield goes left. This time, Jim Marshall nails Zonka behind the line, and Gary Larson took Greasy back about 8 yards.
They just barely got that exchange off between the two of them. Zonka, I think, that time was late off the ball. The coaches, just by looking at him, you wouldn't know who was winning, would you?
There is, I think, just a little bit of satisfaction showing on Don Shooter's face, Pat. Good kick now checks in, as it is a second down and 12. The ball just inside the Dolphin 25. 3 minutes left to play in the third quarter.
This way, make up for it, Larry.
Seaman gets him at the 30, and Miami will have a third down and 8.
Zonka now is very near the Super Bowl record for most yardage rushing in a game. It's held by Matt Snell in the game against Baltimore, 121 yards in 30 attempts. That's the Super Bowl record, and Zonka is very close.
Will Greasy put it in the air on 3rd and 8? He has Warfield to the left, and Bobby Bryant goes with him. He has Briscoe to the right. Zonka did not hold the Vikings this time. The two tackles pinched in, Page and Larson, and the Vikings will get the football with about 2 minutes left to play in the third period.
77, along with Page, 88 of the tackle.
Bobby Bryant is dropping back for the anticipated punt from Larry Seipel, who has not had an opportunity today to do very much punting.
Minnesota, number 20,
Bryant is a single safety. He's the only deep man. Let's see if the Vikings try to put a rush on the kicker. Rather short kick, and the Vikings are going to get pretty good field position at the Minnesota 43-yard line with 1 minute and 34 seconds left to play in the third quarter. That was Tim Foley who downed the ball. So let's see what Tarkenton comes up with here in the way of strategy. He'll have a first down at the Viking 43 when play is resumed. Among those in attendance, Doug Sanders, the professional golfer, and to his right, Anthony Williams here at Rice Stadium. For the Vikings, 1st and 10, Viking 43-yard line. This is Foreman. Foreman gets it just across the 50. It'll be second down and 3. Bob Matheson made the tackle. Now Carroll Dale again was in on first down. Looks like Ed Marinaro is coming into the backfield, number 49. Now Marinaro, replacing Foreman, is a fine receiver. This is Marinaro. And he is just about reached the 46-yard line. It's going to be very close to a first down. Manny Fernandez, the former Cornell star, Marinaro, around the 46. And this is going to call for a measurement, I do believe. Foreman immediately comes back into the game, and it is a first down for the Vikings, with 30 seconds left to play in the third quarter and the clock running. Dolphin defense. And the man in the white raincoat there at the upper left of your screen is Kansas City Chief Head Coach Hank Stram. Foreman hit hard by Nick Buoniconti, and it's going to be 2nd and 10 with 8 seconds left to play in the third period. See, Hank Stram's Kansas City club led the Vikings by what score in their Super Bowl game, Pat?
It was 16-0 at the half, and the Vikings came back and scored. Kansas City went on to win 23-0 as Nick, 23-7, I beg your pardon, as Nick Buoniconti comes out, and an extra defensive back goes in.
Second down.
Charles Babb is the back that's gone in to replace Buoniconti.
This is a 2nd and 10, and Marinaro is back in for Minnesota. This is caught by Gilliam on a comeback, and the gun has just sounded. That's the end of the third quarter with the score. Miami 24, Minnesota nothing. Let's pause now for a word from your local station. The preceding announcement was brought to you by the National Football League. The gentleman there in the horn rim glasses, and I think that's a gray raincoat, if I read my monitor correctly, Pat, is Joe Robbie, the man who's the head of the Miami Dolphins. This is a 3rd and 8 for Minnesota. Stu Boyd, great catch, first down, 29-yard line. He has certainly been the key receiver for Minnesota today.
He certainly has. Bart, how's he managed to get open like he had?
Well, he runs down and he stays about as close to the man who is assigned in that particular area and then just steps just outside his area and a great throw. You've got to be able to throw darts and complete them like that.
Vikings first down, 29-yard line. Mumford is out, Buonacani is back in. Gilliam. 20-yard line. It's going to be 2nd and 1. Tim Foley defending on the play. Now number 82, Jim Lash, the rookie receiver, has moved in from Minnesota.
Fran Tarkenton's has got a couple of things, more than that actually, to keep his eyes on right now. All those Miami defenders, and he's got to take a cautious look at the clock from time to time. The kind of pass he just completed to Gilliam is the kind he needs.
Jim Lash, the intended receiver, but overthrown as Curtis Johnson was over to defend. And a linebacker dropping off was Mike Foley.
Funky Tarkenton.
It is going to be 3rd and 1. And in comes Kings Rider and Goodwin. Out will go Lash and Gilliam. 14-16 left to play. Matheson has left the defensive unit now, and Bob Hines has checked back in, number 72. 24-0 Dolphins. First down, Oscar Reed, he's down to the 13. Jake Scott from the secondary made the tackle, but the drive stays alive.
Back to the same place again in short yardage, except this time it works. Good cut by Reed and a good charge by the Viking offensive line in this case. Jake Scott riding Oscar Reed to the ground with Dick Anderson helping.
Jim Lash has come back in, and he'll line up wide on the left, drawing the attention of cornerback Curtis Johnson. Gilliam is off to the right. This is complete inside the 5 to Jim Lash with Curtis Johnson making the tackle. At around between the 3 and 4 yard line. And this is close to a first down.
And by far the best-looking drive Minnesota's been able to put together. Of course, you're bound to have a letdown on defense when you look up there and see leading 24-0 in the fourth period.
It is 2nd down and less than 1 for a first down. The ball, just length of the ball inside the 4. Tarkenton is going to run it in for the touchdown. For the second time today, Tarkenton ran a seam type of play, this time to put the Vikings on the board with 13:25 remaining in the game.
A designed play again, and designed for Francis to run, and not really ever looking for a pass to any great degree. He put it away and took it in behind the blocks of Oscar Reed and Marinero, I believe. Kings Rider, I beg your pardon.
Paul Krause, the holder for Fred Cox. So now our attention is going to turn from the Viking offense to the Viking defense, as it is squarely up to that Viking defensive unit to try and turn the ball back quickly to the offense. Cox will kick to deep men Jake Scott, 13. Mercury Morris, 22.
Oh, offside kick.
Who has it? Vikings have it. It hit one of the Dolphins. It went the required
chicken shit
first
team.
down for the Vikings at the 49-yard line of Miami.
There is real art to executing this as well as Fred Cox just did it. The Dolphin player was trying to get out of the way, hoping the ball would go out of bounds. It's Bob Matheson, I believe, that the ball hit.
And there was a penalty on the play. I must admit, I turned away. I did not see what it was. Was it offside on the kickoff? Offside on the kickoff. And the Vikings now have had so many costly penalties. The return of the second half kickoff by Gilliam, a brilliant return, nullified by a slipping penalty. Just one of the penalties that has hurt Minnesota. So now, I'm sure that Miami will be ever so alert as far as a possible attempt for the Vikings to keep control of the ball here.
They got different people up there in that front line now.
They have some receivers and defensive backs up front.
Larry Seipel is over there along with Tim Foley. Those who are used to handling the ball.
Curtis Johnson is up close to the front line. Jim Mandich is up near it.
Chicken shit team. There you are, chicken. Go ahead, Larry, run it all the way, Larry.
Collared, and I mean literally collared at the 33-yard line. This Tuesday night, CBS will have the NBA All-Star Game from Seattle. Eastern time. In fact, you'll be there for that.
Right, with some of the game's great players. Defeating the East, of course, against the West. People like Pete Maravich and Bob McAdoo, Walt Frazier, the Knicks from the East. And from the West, Chet Walker, Bob Lanier, Sidney Wicks, and Gail Goodrich. The NBA All-Star Game on CBS. The best in basketball on the #1 network.
From the Dolphins, 34-yard line. Zonka to the 37. Fran Tarkenton apparently is going to require some attention on the part of the Minnesota trainer.
Right here.
24-7. Less than 13 minutes remaining in the game. Wally Hilgenberg made that last defensive play. Zonka picked up 3. It is 2nd down and 7. He has to be pretty close to that record now. What was it? 121 yards by Matt Snell.
Right.
Rushing record for an individual in the Super Bowl. Mercury Morris trying to get outside, but he is spun around by Roy Winston, and it's going to be 3rd and about 10, and Jim Kick comes off the bench to replace Morris.
I don't think it's any big secret that because of the situation the Vikings find themselves in there, you're going to see them blitzing a great deal from here on out. They had one on there and it worked real well.
This is a 3rd and 10 play coming up.
Jim Kick in the offensive lineup now has the reputation of being a fine blocker as well as a good pass receiver. This is a move that the Dolphins frequently use. Remains to be seen whether or not Greasy will put the ball in the air or not.
He has suffered no interceptions. 3rd and 10.
There he goes.
He gets it to the 40, short of a first down. It's going to be 4th and 4 as Wally Hilgenberg and Jeff Wright made the tackle. So the Vikings will get the ball with about 11 minutes remaining in the game and trailing by 17 points, 24-7. Larry Seipel comes on. Bobby Bryant is dropping back, anticipating this punt by Miami.
Run it. Run that ball.
The Vikings have 10 men up on the line. Great punt. It's going to be down around the 1 or 2. And the Dolphins continue to do just about everything right. So Fran Tarkenton must start the Vikings from the Minnesota 3-yard line. 37 remaining in the game. From the Viking 3. This is Ed Marinaro, and he has it out to around the 14, and this should be a Minnesota first down. Jake Scott made the tackle. Let's see, check out now the Viking receivers. Gillian, number 42. Jim Lash, number 82. And in the backfield, he has Marinaro and Oscar Reed, and his tight end is number 83, Stu Voigt. First down, Minnesota. Couldn't quite get the ball to a slanting Jim Lash, as one of the few times today Tarkenton was off target.
He has thrown the ball extremely well so far, and he's going to have to throw it just about every play from here on in.
Tarkenton now has thrown the ball 22 times, 16 completions, 145 yards, no interceptions. Now it is second down and 10.
Sorry, Ray, the record for completions, by the way, is held by Joe Namath of 17, so Tarkenton is one away.
Oscar Reed, and he's within about a yard of a first down at the Viking 24, where linebacker Doug Swift made the tackle. Less than 10 minutes now remaining. Mike Colin comes out of the lineup. Bob Hines is going in. The Dolphins have too many men on the field, but they just got their man off. Linebacker Larry Ball just got off on time. 3rd and 1. And Oscar Reed, by that second effort, gets a first down at the 26-yard line as middle linebacker Nick Buonaconi made the tackle. So let's see what sort of a pattern Tarkenton sets up now on first down.
Well, the clock becomes ever more important. You see, we're approaching the 9-minute mark. And the Vikings need an explosion.
More an explosion.
First and 10.
There's a funky quarterback.
Couldn't hold on at the 31-yard line. It would have been a gain of about 5 because he was well covered by linebacker Doug Swift.
Bud Grant, you guys
I think Fran is going to have to hit another one of those big passes like he did to John Gilliam, or at least try to go a little bit farther up the field than he is, because he's just running out of time with those short throws.
It is now second down and 10, and veteran Bill Brown, number 30, comes into the backfield.
Bill Brown is the all-time leading Vikings pass receiver. So he presents an added threat coming out of the backfield.
He's trying everything now.
Second and 10. There is Bill Brown, and he gets it out for about 8 yards to the 34. Doug Swift made the tackle with help from Bob Matheson, and with 8.5 minutes remaining, it is going to be third down and 2. This drive started at the Viking 3 after a beautiful punt by Larry Seipel.
And again, those type of passes, although they do buy first downs, just don't get enough points on the board quickly enough.
Hines goes in. Matheson goes out. Bill Brown gets it out around the 36-yard line. He ran into Bill Stanford.
That's a hell of a guy to run into.
First down. So the veteran Bill Brown immediately makes his presence known after coming into the game, catches a pass, makes a third down run for a first down. Hines goes out. Matheson goes in for Miami.
Chuck Foreman on the sideline, not playing at the moment because the two backs in the game, Marinaro and Brown, both are better pass receivers.
He defensive back Tim Foley went on the back of intended receiver Doug Kingsrider. And result, first down, Minnesota at the Viking 41, 7:36 left, and you can check this one out yourself.
Foley did not even contest this call at all. Marinaro, of course, a good bit bigger than Tim, had his body in between, and he had to go ahead and make his commitment. It's going to be a completion anyway. Interference penalty, no question about it, called against Foley.
And it's an automatic first down, and it stops the clock. 7:36 remaining. Mumford is out. Linebacker Larry Ball comes in. Gilliam comes right. Lash comes right. This is Marinaro. He just won't go down at the 33-yard line in the grasp of Curtis Johnson. Great effort by Marinaro.
Curtis Johnson is really upset. And but for that grip that he had on Marinaro's jersey, the Vikings would have had another touchdown. That pass interference penalty by Tim Foley a minute ago, by the way, was the first penalty of the game against Miami. That's another one of many reasons they win.
The first down. It was intended for Jim Lash running that deep sideline pattern. It stops the clock with 6:43 remaining. Next Sunday, following the NBA game, a pro basketball special, The Best in Basketball, will be on CBS at 5 o'clock Eastern Time.
Special traces the history of the NBA with all of the great players and their influence on the changes in the game. It all starts with a visit to the Hall of Fame in Springfield, Massachusetts, which we enjoyed very much.
Carroll Dale, number 84, has replaced Lash after Lash had run that deep pattern, and it's a Viking 2nd and 10 at the Miami 32. Gilliam comes right, and Foley moves out with him. Dale goes left, and he draws the attention of Johnson, plus a linebacker. Stu Boyd and Gilliam were both down there deep, but it is going to be 3rd and 10, and I'm not sure that the word critical is even puts emphasis enough on what's coming up here in the way of a 3rd down and 10 for Minnesota, Pat.
Well, I think one thing that Tarkenton and the Vikings now have going for them is that 3-man rush by the Miami defensive line. They've just got, by sheer strength of numbers, more blockers than the Dolphins have rushers. 18 for 27 for a total of 182 yards. And that is a record number of completions in a Super Bowl game for Fran Tarkenton. The old record held by Joe Namath in Super Bowl III.
3rd down, 10.
Hey, way to go, Johnson.
9-yard line. And tempers are beginning to get frayed as Johnson comes up with the first interception of the game. So the Miami defense taking the ball out of the air in the person of Curtis Johnson, number 45. Pat, let's go down to Bart.
Thank you very much, Ray. Our viewers here are going to get a great look at this Miami defense. I think on the lineup you can see the beautiful spacing they maintain across the field. Just keep your eyes on these 3 deep backs and how they proportion themselves across this field, and how Johnson is cutting in. The ball is a little bit overthrown here, but nevertheless he was in good position and makes an outstanding interception. This is one of the reasons they're so tough.
So couple this turnover on the part of the interception, throw in penalties in key situations, and that's the reason for Miami 24, Minnesota 7, 6 minutes and 24 seconds remaining. And a Dolphin offensive line of Moore, Kuchenberg, Langer, Little, Evans, and tight end Jim Mandy. Larry Zonka. He's out to the 17-yard line, and we're going to keep a close look on the unofficial rushing yardage because while Tarkenton broke the pass completion record, Larry Zonka comes very, very close to the rushing record. And as Pat pointed out, it came when Matt Snell ran for 121 yards in the Jets' victory over Baltimore.
And unofficially, he has broken Snell's rushing record with that run right there. He's now got 123 yards. Snell took 30 carries to do it.
Second down, 3. Zonka has a first down, and undoubtedly he has a new Super Bowl record now. And the clock keeps ticking away, and we now know that Arizona's leader on the ground of this unrelenting Miami running attack, which first expressed itself today in the opening drive of the game. 10 plays, just 2 passes by Greasy, both completed, and the announcement has just been made to this capacity crowd at Rice Stadium that Larry Zonka has indeed set a new individual record.
Captain Crutch, way to go.
First down and 10.
There he goes again.
Jim kicked Burrows for several yards.
There's been so much talk about how this Dolphin team felt about winning this Super Bowl game, so they might be favorably compared with the only other team that won 2 back-to-back, the Green Bay Packers. They felt if they could do that, that would be one of the things that might prove them to be certainly one of the great teams of all time.
And what certainly must be a disappointing afternoon for the young man we saw there an instant ago, Fran Tarkenton.
The 20.
Zonka adds yet a couple of more yards to that impressive total, and when the ball is next snapped, barring a timeout by the Vikings, we will have less than 4 minutes remaining. Carl Eller made the tackle on that last play.
Somebody asked Don Shula how much this game meant to him, and if that comparison meant that much. He said it certainly did, but of more importance to him was in Super Bowl competition. He was just trying to get up to 500 because he had won only 1 and lost 2. 1 with the Dolphins, 1 with the Colts. It looks like he's done a great job this time.
Third down and 8. Zonka is met by Seaman and Roy Winstead. And we have a marker down inside the 15-yard line. Alan Page hit Greasy, and a marker is down, and number 88, Alan Page, is arguing vehemently.
He's out. He's out of the game.
Jim Marshall, his teammate, close friend. So once again, we're going to have a penalty against the Vikings, and it's going to hurt their cause, although, in all honesty, of course, this one comes when the game is well out of hand.
We're at a First Dolphin fans certainly are back here at Rice Stadium, and they have been chanting, "We're number 1" for about the last quarter and a half.
I was going to say, Pat, ordinarily I don't like to point out things that we do not all get an opportunity to see, but I think it should be pointed out that after that penalty was measured off, the guy that went and patted Bob Greasy on the back in a very friendly way was one Alan Page. Howard Twilley has checked in, number 81, and Paul Warfield is out. First down at the 40-yard line. Goes Zonka on his relentless way again out to the 45-yard line. We would like to point out that Super Bowl VIII was produced by Bill Fitz and directed by Tony Berna. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Second down and 6. Mar Fleming, number 80, playing in his 5th Super Bowl, has come in now. He's a tight end. Twilley lines up as a wingback to the left with less than 3 minutes remaining in the game. Jim kick.
Go, Jimmy.
To the 49, and it's going to be third down and 1, and a marker goes down.
Vikings again.
Here's Alan Page, and he has been handled extremely well today. That's about the only thing you can say by the offensive line for Miami. Bob Kuchenberg and Alan Page getting rid of some of that frustration. It has to be a frustrating afternoon for all of the Minnesota Vikings. This is their second trip to the Super Bowl. They lost to Kansas City 23-7. They trailed Miami 24-7.
Well, we have offsetting personal fouls now.
That had to be that exchange between Kuchenberg and Page that you just saw.
So with 2:45 remaining, let's see, we did have the run came to within about a yard of a first down, and I'm a little bit at a loss here, Pat. The penalty, the infractions occurred after the play was dead, so the gain stands. Then the offsetting penalties, so it is going to be third and short yardage.
Come on, Miami.
With 2 minutes and 45 seconds remaining. So Fran Tarkenton, who wanted so very much to win this game for his Minnesota Viking team, and as he has expressed it over and again, he wanted to forever have that label of loser erased.
He's a loser.
In fairness to him, I think it's already been erased with the 2 victories this year.
Third and about a foot, the ball at the 50.
Oh, offside!
The markers go flying as we'll find out now where the Vikings offside.
Yeah, they were offside.
By an illegal procedure.
No. Offside, right.
First down Dolphins.
Don't have to worry about no.
At this stage of the game, sort of puts the final stamp on the frustrations felt by that man, Alan Page, and by the Vikings as a team today.
Well, Tarkenton has said beautifully that quarterbacks don't lose football games, teams do. And he's also said that quarterbacks don't win them, teams do. And I think that's the best way to describe everything, Pat.
I couldn't agree more.
First down, Dolphins, Viking 45.
Go ahead, just take time,
A yard or so, and another 30 seconds will be erased from the clock.
There's so many things about a game of this magnitude that are going to be hashed and rehashed as time passes. This man, Don Shula, put his Dolphins through a rigorous training schedule getting ready for this game. No time off. Very, very tough schedule, whereas Bud Grant gave his Vikings a whole week off before they came to Houston and began workouts again. So the way they approached it has to be something that will be discussed.
42-year-old Don Shula. Now he's on the 38-yard line. And I'm sure that when this game is being discussed, talked about, written about, the word dynasty is going to be mentioned in reference to this Miami Dolphin team built. Once again, we got a magnificent bird's eye view, a high-flying bird's eye view of Rice Stadium here in Houston, Texas, as we are a minute and 58 seconds away from the conclusion of Super Bowl VIII.
Before the game, we were standing around down on the field, and the Viking mascot came roaring out, and that fish, the dolphin, came roaring out to challenge out of the stand.
For Miami, third down and 3 at the Minnesota 38-yard line. Zonka and Kick are the running backs. Zonka has been in on every offensive series, every offensive play. Howard Twilley in motion. Zonka.
Larry Zonka, 2 guys, 2 yards.
Jim Marshall straightens him up. Very close to another Miami Dolphin first down.
That carry right there is number 31 for Zonka. So that breaks Matt Snell's old record, too, of 30 carries, 30 attempts in a game. He already had broken the yardage record.
And this is not This is not an old Miami Dolphin team, we should point out. Next Sunday, the CBS Sports Spectacular comes back with a diversified schedule of outstanding events, and we'll tell you about them right after this play. Fourth and about a foot.
Come on, Larry. Right about 15 yards. Yeah, there he goes.
Zonka gets the foot. And a first down. Now about that CBS Sports Spectacular next Sunday. The first 2 weeks are going to feature 25 of the greatest heavyweight championship fights in history.
First week, you'll see the Lewis Smelling fights, Willard Dempsey, Furco Dempsey, Dempsey Tunney, and many, many others. That ought to be great. The opening show will also cover the Moscow Skates of 1973. Zonka is leaving. What a day.
Larry Zonka, who has set an individual record and by his play set the early tone of this game. He is replaced by Don Nottingham. This is Jim Kick getting it inside the 30. And with the Dolphins controlling the ball here in the final seconds, it sort of puts the topping on an outstanding performance. There's Nick Buoniconti, the leader on the field of the Miami Dolphin defense. The final seconds now are ticking away. Bob Kuchenberg leads, Wayne Moore leads, Irv Goody comes in. The Miami Dolphin fans, some 12,000 strong, count off the final seconds as the Miami Dolphins have duplicated Super Bowls I and II, where the Packers won back-to-back championships, and with a resounding and overwhelming victory, the Miami Dolphins have made it 2 in a row.
Matt, just by way of bringing you up to date on that great statistical afternoon that Larry Zonka had, unofficially this is, 33 carries for 145 yards. And Larry, that's going to be a very, very happy Miami Dolphin dressing room.
And I think we should point out at this time that all of our broadcasters who have presented the games to you folks on CBS television this year, National Football League games, all of our broadcasters are going to be present for a very unusual, and I think you will agree, enlightening and enjoyable post-game mass conference, I guess we should call that.
Each one of them will have an opportunity to question and get the reaction of members of the winning Miami Dolphin team. Jack Whitaker will be hosting.
So that is the end of the game with the score. The Miami Dolphins 24, the Minnesota Vikings 7. We'll return to Super Bowl VIII in just a moment.
It's hard to always, you're taking a chance when you predict someone to win big, but they did today, and I think they proved that they're a super football team.
Bart, as long as you're right next to Dan there, and I'm sure this is going to come up, the comparisons with the Green Bay teams, with the Miami Dolphins. Have you any comment on that?
Well, before I do, Jack, I just want to say this, that Dan's being overly kind because I picked the Vikings. Shows you what I know. Well, I don't think it's ever fair to compare. This is a super football team. It stands on its own merits. We obviously thought we had a fine football team. I would think less of the Dolphins if they didn't think they were the greatest team that ever lived, and I would think that they would think the same of me if I didn't feel the same way about my ball club.
Were you surprised with the overwhelming superiority of Miami today?
I was. I certainly was.
All right, John Sauer, I know that you have watched this game from a coach's standpoint. What do you think you're going to want to ask Don Shula and Bud Grant?
Well, Jack, I really don't think it was so surprising that Miami beat Minnesota, or maybe the other way. It's the methodical way in which it was done. And that's what I'd like to talk to Don about.
All right, well, here they are. Don Shula. Hey, this man has had... There you go.
I got a lot of old friends out here. I think they're old friends.
This
a bunch.
This man has had more press conferences this week than Dr. Kissinger, I think.
Yeah, but listen, I was looking forward to one more. I want that one tomorrow. I loved every minute of it, and it's all part of this, and that's what it's all about.
All right, Don, let me present now the Commissioner of the National Football League, Pete Rozelle, to make the presentation to owner, Mr. Joe Robbie, and to Don Shula.
Well, I think the visual impact of today's events, Don, make any verbal description quite inadequate. It was obviously an extremely impressive win, and tremendous credit to the entire organization, Joe, the group you put together, starting with this outstanding coach and an amazing group of football players. Congratulations, and I think that it was it certainly equals last year, even though you went clean last year. Your Super Bowl win, I think, was more convincing today. Marvelous job by the entire Dolphins group. Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. Listen, I'd just like to say a couple of things about the trophy, and of course I mentioned last year what this trophy means and what the man meant that made all this possible. But I just like to say a couple of things about our football team. In the 4 years that I've been down to Miami, every year this team has gotten a little bit better. The first year we got to the playoffs and got beaten in the playoffs. The next year we made it to the Super Bowl, but we were frustrated. We got beaten in the Super Bowl. And then last year, 17-0, the Super Bowl, everything else. And I didn't think that anything else could ever be any greater than that. But this year, even though we lost 2 ball games, for this team to be able to go back-to-back, and there's only one other team that ever did that, Bart, the old Pack. And I feel so proud of this team because I think, again, it's gone one step beyond what it did last year. Last year was fantastic, but the accomplishment this year of going back-to-back against the competition that we've had to go against just makes me so proud of our football team, the coaches, the entire organization. I'm just I'm proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Mr. Robbie, how about a few words from you?
Yes, I'll use Stuart and Don Sherwood. That'd be quite a record for me. Last year I was asked what we could do for an encore after being 17-0, and I said, well, what's wrong with 34-0? This afternoon I'm perfectly satisfied with 32-2. But unimaginative people keep asking that same question, what if you beat Minnesota this afternoon? Well, all I can say to them now is, now we'll strive for consistency. We want to make this happen for me. There are 2 million people in the Paradise area of South Florida who shares a great triumph with us, and 10,000 of them were out here this afternoon. One of the Minneapolis people said, you've got the wildest fans I ever saw, and that was before the game started. We're mighty happy. If you'll join us tonight over at the Marriott, why, we'll try and get you happy. This is another great moment for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Robbie. Thank you indeed, and congratulations here. Let's see, we have Bob Greasy here, and is Coach Sheila left already? Coach had to go back there to, Bob, congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's hard to realize that it's over and we've won it all week long. It's a preparation type of thing, and you're concerned about going out and doing it, and then you don't know you're going to win. You know, a lot of people feel very confident, and we certainly did, but until you go out and play the ball game, and it just hasn't hit me yet. It will later, I'm sure.
All right, John Sauer, I believe, has a question for you, Bob.
Bob, I thought you faced a great deal of the time today an offset defense by Minnesota. Did you use quite a few audibles? You seemed to attack it perfectly.
Well, not really, John. We studied pretty well. We kind of knew what they were going to do as far as they didn't use a lot of odd fronts before, but we knew what we could do and knew how to block them. We don't use that many checkoffs during a ball game. We feel like the few times you can check off, the better, because anytime you do audibilize, then all 11 people have to get it, and there's the chance somebody may not get it because of the crowd noise, or they maybe think you said a number that you didn't say. So the best way to do it is to prepare so thoroughly that you don't have to use checkoffs.
All right, we do have, yes, Bart Starr.
Bob, would the same apply to the pass that you threw to Briscoe down on the goal line? Was it, rather than an audible, something you just anticipated their coverage to be in?
Right, Bart, and I'm sure you've done it many times. You get in a certain situation on the football field, and you have a pretty good idea of what they're going to be in, and they were blitzing on that situation, and all the linebackers and the strong safety was accounted for, and it was a slant in to Marlon, and he made a good catch out of it. And it's just a matter of knowing what they're going to do in a precise time.
Wayne Walker.
Bob, Larry Zonka has stated that you have a great understanding of the running game, and I know he likes you for that being a running back. Now, 2 weeks ago against Oakland, you threw very few times, and this afternoon you threw 7 times, but most of those came early. Did you feel that going into today's game that you may have to throw more against Minnesota than you have in the past?
As we did against Oakland, we were prepared to throw a lot more, but I felt the tempo of the game, the way we got out way in front, the running game was going well again, and just the things that I thought the way the game should be called, we did it this way. And we had a lot of pass plays on. They got a good rush. And some of our offensive linemen, Wayne Moore in particular, was banged up a little bit. And I thought the best way to handle it was to get the positive plays rather than try and throw a lot and maybe get thrown for losses of yardage. So,
all right, Pete Retzlaff.
Yes, it seemed in the first half you were using Warfield sparingly, and course, maybe during the week you had to shift the emphasis of your passing game to the other side using Briscoe a little bit more, not knowing whether Warfield could really stretch out or not. And in the third quarter, that nice split of the zone to Warfield. Anything take place in the first half? Warfield told you, look, I've tried it, it's okay.
No, yeah, exactly. I was talking to Paul all the time because early in the game I didn't know whether he would be full strength or half strength or how he would be able to run. So I didn't know whether to lead him like he usually runs or not. But he came back and said that he was running pretty well and just about up to par. And so we got together. But I did let him have a few plays in the first quarter to test it out.
Bart Starr, we have a scramble here first. We'd like you to comment on, if you would, Bob, since this was kind of rare to see you doing this. What happened in this particular situation?
I forgot. No, this was supposed to be a pass to Paul on the left, and they had probably scouted us and saw that we'd like to go to him down there, and they had him covered pretty well. And of course, you don't want to give the ball up down there on an interception, so I just felt the best thing to do was keep it and run for what I got and come up and line up again and try to score the next time.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Bob, and congratulations again. We'll return here to CBS Control with the player of the day and maybe the year, Larry Zonka, in just a moment. All right, the player of the game, a tremendous performance, a new record in rushing in Super Bowl. It'll be a long time before we see equal. Larry Zonka, and we have a question, Larry, from Tommy Mason.
Larry, aside from the way that y'all just completely dominated the ballgame, I think the most amazing thing that I saw today was when y'all were introduced, I think the backfield ran out and you were smiling. Now, in our society, you know what they say, put your game face on. I'm just amazed that they were able to come out and do as good a job as you did when you didn't know if you were ready or not.
I was ready. I don't generally come out frowning. I was very happy to be here and have the opportunity, and the only time I get to stand right in front of the camera with my helmet off, so I thought I'd flash a big country grin on him. But, I think you can be serious about football and not have to walk around with smirk on your face or scowl or whatever.
What happened to your eye there? We saw you getting treated on the bench.
I accidentally bumped it into Hilgenberg's elbow. They put a couple of stitches in it and moved out part of his elbow cartilage, and it's all better now.
Yes, sir, Frost.
Larry, there's a lot of speculation coming into this ballgame that perhaps maybe the Vikings had more incentive to win than the Dolphins because you've been here before, you sort of gotten into this monotonous routine of winning. Just how did you get yourself up for the game? I know it's important, but...
Well, Coach Shula told us that we'd have Wednesday off this week if we won. That had a lot to do with it. No, really, just to be able to be in a position where you can be compared with a team of the greatness of the pack a few years ago, I think provides each individual with a great deal of motivation. And I think this club, if any club has been capable since that time, is capable because of the personnel on this club. We have a lot of different guys. We don't really have what you'd call college or high school team togetherness, but there's an underlying factor that no one sees because we don't run around rah-rah and so on. We don't have pepper eyes or anything, but it's a great group of men that get along 100%, and we're lucky enough to have a coach like Coach Shula. I don't want to blow any smoke at him, but he's done a great job. I like to kid him a lot, but he really has done a great job, and he treats everyone on the team absolutely equal, no matter what position or importance to the team. So, in other words, if you're a key player and you go out after curfew, you're laying your life on the line, irregardless.
You wouldn't do anything like that, Jim, now would you?
No, I'm Larry, and I wouldn't do it.
I mean, Larry. Tom Brookshire, or whatever your name is. Your weight is always thrown around. Nobody knows what you really weigh. Zonk, are you 250? You break more tackles than anybody alive. Tell me what
I might be 250 on Wednesday, but generally by game time I'm right around 240. I argue with Coach Shula. I'm 6'3 and a half, and I figure that's I'm as tall as some of the offensive linemen, so I figure my weight should be comparable. But he bases his decision on the fact that a running back should be able to move to the outside pretty quickly. So the weight I turn in, the best time in the 40 is what he considers to be my weight.
You're some kind of a runner, I'll tell you that.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes, Frank Luber.
Larry, you guys have been on both ends of this thing now. Why is it that two teams finely tuned, the best in pro football, get up to the Super Bowl, and year after year one seems to completely dominate the other?
I really don't know. I don't have the slightest idea outside of possibly the pressure and the fact that there's 2 weeks practice time where you, at the beginning of the 2 weeks practice time, you begin to relax because you feel you have 2 weeks, and you kind of let that week slide by. And then all of a sudden you're confronted with it the last week, and you've been over it so many times, it's so repetitious by that time that you really don't pay attention to it. We found that this happened to us a few years back against Dallas, and perhaps we overworked just the week prior, you know, and well, like I said, I don't really know.
Tommy Mason?
Larry, I was wondering, you run that slant or the option run when you cut back when the middle linebacker overruns. What is in your mind when you have that play called? Do you have your eye on the middle linebacker as you're heading off tackle to break it inside or outside?
I'm just looking for a place to get away. To be honest with you, I don't think that a running back really plots his strategy on the move. I think it's strictly reaction. I try to go where there's no one else, but sometimes that doesn't work. Today, the Minnesota Vikings were a very aggressive team. They tend to overrun the play. They're so aggressive. So again, we came with a lot of misdirection play. We started wide a great many times and came back. It wasn't really inside running by design on many occasions.
Larry, we have some of your finer moments here this afternoon on tape. Here's one where you go up the middle, I believe.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's we call it a roll trap. Motion starts one way, the quarterback and the halfback, and then we come back against the grain and we try to get a good block on the middle linebacker. And Larry, I think that's where I took some of the flesh off my elbow out there.
Larry, I think that was in the first series of downs, and it set the tone for the whole ball game.
Yeah, well, this is a trap underneath. Again, we're starting with the action wide and coming back against the grain, or coming under the grain.
And here's one where we like to say up in the booth, great second effort.
Well, I got hit a couple of times pretty good, but they were blows that struck pretty high. And well, in this one, it makes you think that really, but I wasn't really hit there. I think the fellow, one of my offensive linemen, took most of the shock of the impact a little lower, and it looks like I was running over someone, when in reality I wasn't at all. This was a play that was designed to go that same outside start and cutting back. Bob Greasy got to the line and forgot what the call was. He turned around and asked me, and when he asked me, at that moment I forgot. And I told him the wrong count, so that was why the delay was taking place.
All right, any questions here, Timmy Brown?
Larry, a little bit on your line. I know how much you respect your line. Do you have a certain way that they block? I mean, do you work on a certain hole? Like you got the two hole, does it have to be where you're going, or do they just do straight ahead and let you kind of pick your hole there?
I think this is one of the things that's made our running game what it is. I've worked together with my line, and so are the other backs, Mercury Morris and Jim Kick, to the point where we know them so well that we know how they'll react when the defense moves. In other words, the defense that's lined up in and comes across the line generally shifts from the time the ball is snapped to the time the running back gets there. In other words, they'll have a slide or they'll have a ram charge or something by one of the defensive ends or tackles. And the offensive line adjusts on the move. And when you know your offensive line, the way we know our offensive line, you know what's going through their mind and how they're going to react to what they see. So we know what to expect on the run. And it works out very, very good. I'm very proud of my offensive line, incidentally, and I think you can actually know what I'm talking about. The holes were fantastic.
Well, I didn't see as many of them as you see.
Well, I was looking in the stand.
Larry, they should be very very proud of you. Thanks for your time very much. All right, Eugene, Mercury Morris, Jim Kick. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Was it fun?
It was business.
How about you, Jim?
We're fun right now.
All right. Question here, Dick Stockton.
Yes. I want to ask both Merck and Jim Kick. You know, it seems, and you look back at Bart Starr's Green Bay clubs, execution, simple execution. Is that the story? Is it having the players who happen to execute better than anyone else instead of the fancy stuff? Is it really what football is all about in this particular game?
I think with a team like we have, you know, that's basically what it is. We thrive on execution, you know, perfection, more like, you know, we're a team where we're not overly big, we're not overly strong, you know, we have what it takes to get across the goal.
Repetition?
That's it, you know.
I think a lot of execution is right and a lot of talent. We have, I think, more talent in this team than any team in football.
All right, Mercury, here's a couple of plays for you. 14 yards.
Zonk right there, you know, they follow him everywhere he goes, and I just jumped across him. I was lucky to get outside. We got a lot of people downfield all the time, which is the key to Zonk and Jim and myself, the key to our getting some yardage.
All right, and this next one? Up the middle.
Oh, yeah, this was a short yardage play. It was about 3rd and 1. if I'd had any sense, I'd have broke it, but I was just concerned. Grease told me just before, he said, okay, Mark, we only need 1 yard, but I just happened to get 10.
You'll take that any time, won't you? All right, Lindsey Nelson.
Coming into this ball game, a great many people seem to have felt that perhaps there wasn't a full appreciation of the talents of the Miami Dolphins. Do you feel that the team had not been fully appreciated coming up to this point?
From my standpoint, we've come up a long ways in a short amount of time, and I think that the old NFLism was still hanging over our heads, until we had to prove that this is one big league, and the best team is going to come out at the end. And fortunately for us, we've been able to do that.
Is today's performance going to make a big difference in that regard?
Yeah, they really soft.
For other people, yes, but I don't think when we go out there each week with the idea to win the ball, and whatever it takes within the framework of about 60 minutes.
Jack Buck.
Jim, when we were talking with Zonka, you talked about the offensive line. I'd like to single out one guy there he caught our eye here today as we watched the game. That's Jim Langer. Is there anybody any better than he is?
I Jim Langer was a hell of a football player, but I never realized how good he was. And just talking to our offensive lineman the other day, and they said that he was the best in football. The guy the key man, he started there, and of course you got a pretty good rushing attack, so he must do a pretty good job.
He really stays with people, doesn't he? He gives you time to get there.
Well, Jim is so strong, he doesn't look that big. Like Murphy said, his team isn't that big physically, but he's a weightlifter, he's very strong, and he's quick, so he just stays with them people, and they can't shut him off.
Jim, we have a videotape here of your touchdown run that you might want to see again.
A lot of times. It's just a power play going up the middle, the same play that Murphy ran for the short yardage, and following Zonk and the offensive line, following Zonk is like another guard, so we got actually about 8 linemen in there.
Yes, Dan Kelly.
Early in the football game, you people seem to be running a lot to the right. Was this part of the game plan, and why going to your right side?
Go ahead, man.
Well, it doesn't matter where we run, as long as it's successful, and we just stay at it. If it wasn't working to the right, we would have tried the left, not the left, up the middle. So it happened to be working here, we just kept right at it.
John Sauer?
Mark, it's been suggested that quite possibly about a month ago, Coach Shula mimeographed a game plan, and you've used it for the last 3 weeks. Is that about right?
Well, we're like this. We're not an emotional team. For some reason, we know what we have to do, we know how to get the job done. There's a lot of circumstances around our success. Number one is Coach Shula. I think number 2 is our attitude, and the fact that we have a great quarterback in Greasy that's able to be really a field general. And we've got 40 guys that put it together, and nobody blames anybody if somebody makes a mistake. Everything is positive on our team.
Well, I think one reason, too, for Miami's success has been the great way that you two people have worked together. And I think everybody's appreciative of those facts. Thank you very much, Jim Kick, Mercury Morris. Thank you. All right, we have linebackers coming in here now, I believe. Nick Bonacani. How are you? Congratulations, fellas. Wayne Walker, that's your department.
You bet. I got a question for Nick. Nick, I think probably the most critical defensive play of the first half was when Minnesota had the ball 4th and 1 at the 8-yard line, and it almost looked like he had a blitz on or some kind of stunt because you went with the flow and met Oscar Reed right in the hole. Were you just scraping off? How did you get there so fast?
Well, here's the play right now, Nick.
It was a play. I saw Foreman. He had one of his feet were really way back. There's only one way he could have gone, and that was straight up for the block. And I know he wasn't going to run the football, so as soon as the motion started by Freeman and started into his pivot, I just started, going to the hole, and I was able to, get in the hole pretty good.
How about your frequencies? Against Minnesota, they had a tendency in short yardage and tough yardage situations to run behind Ron Yerry. They did it. This was about the 3rd time in the game that they did it. The play that you created a fumble. Were you aware of this? I'm sure you were.
Yeah, their big plays are going to Yerry. They like Yerry, I guess, better than Grady, because he's the best blocker on the line. There's no question, and one of the best tackles in football. So that's why we figured it'd go.
P. Retzlaff?
It was either Nick or Bob. I think Dallas, part of Minnesota's success against Dallas was when Fran Tarkenton would scramble out or roll out to the right, scramble out, whatever you want to call it. And they seem to have a lot of success that, with the exception of one play today, I believe you people pretty well contained it. Was that by design, something you worked on and worked against?
Yes, we knew that. They like to go to the defensive left on his right hand. Of course, a right-handed quarterback, and he likes to go to his right and take the football. When I was in like the 50-50, outside contain right now, and this would force him to type of pass play where he wouldn't be rolling out that way. We went into the ball game, shutting him off on his right to defensive left his right.
Herb Cross?
Jack, I'd like to ask Bob, the 53 defense, we know, I just call it a three-man line, and three-man lines, as we know them, are not really good lines against running plays. You run them oftentimes with first and second down. How do you cover up for it? Now, here you are with three-man line and running the ball at you.
Well, in the last 3 or 4 games, we put some dominated where the lineman would be hitting the gap. I would be going away from I'd line up away from the tight end and really hit the tight end. It came my way. I'd have the linebacker scraping. I'd be clogging things up. So we forced him to run away from me, but we were slanting away from me. So teams really didn't adjust to it toward the end of the season. It worked out really good.
Nick Stockton?
Either Nick or Bob. Dynasties are really becoming extinct, and we haven't had that many in sports, and you guys are probably just there. How do you keep the hunger? It seems to be the toughest thing in sports, in any area, for a team to continue to be hungry year after year. Now you've won 2.
Well, except excuse my voice because I did a little yelling in the game, but when you have a team that I consider really a non-emotional type of a ball club, I think South Stinson, Don Schuler, the head coach. And all through the year, we just prepare, for game. I mean, a lot of teams say they do the same thing, but we're very objective in the way we approach our game plan, and we know the strengths and the weaknesses of every club. And we talk specifically about the strengths of that ball club, and what we have to do to take those strengths away in order to win that ball game. And we go into the game, we don't have the peaks and valleys. We don't go in there rah, yelling, we got to win this game, or anything like that. Guys know what their jobs are, what they have to get accomplished, and you guys been through it, and Wayne has, and Bart, and Irv, and so you know what it is to get up for ball games. But we just have kind of an even keel all the way through, and there's no screaming or yelling, and I think it's a good way of doing it.
You agree with that, Bob?
I certainly do. This non-emotional outlook on the game of football is Schuler's way of presenting it to us, and we just had this level of consistency. That's what we worked for all year, and it's obviously it's paid its dividends.
Dick and Bob, congratulations. Thank you very much. We'll return with more Super Bowl VIII winners in just a moment.
Presenting Ford Maverick, today's kind of family car. It offers not only economy and good gas mileage, but also surprising luxury. The compact Ford Maverick with luxury decor option. It rides like a comfortable sedan, yet handles and saves gas like a small economy.
Congratulations, Jake. Jake, I want to ask you a specific question on a play we saw in the second quarter where it looked like it was a first down play, and the Vikings had the ball somewhere around your 30-yard line or 40-yard line, and Tarkin threw a pass to Gilliam. It's like a post pass. It looked like you were supposed to have a double zone coverage. So what was that?
No, I had the tight end man for man on that, if you'll believe that. It was always weak play, and he ran a crossing route deep, and I followed him over, and then Gilliam came in behind, and Curtis was trailing him. We were man-to-man on one side of the field and zone on the other, and I went man-to-man as he crossed.
Frank Weaver? Jake, Gilliam has been the big play guy for the Vikings, I guess, throughout the playoffs, yet you guys contained him very well. Did you pay special attention to him?
Well, I remember about a year ago, I went to sleep on a short yardage play, and they threw one for about 60 yards over my head up there when we played Minnesota. I think we ended up winning the game just barely. So I played pretty close attention to where he was all day.
Tom Brookshire?
Yeah, I want to ask about the fair catch signage.
You had trouble with one of the came right back and started running back like Virginia. That takes a lot of guts for 188 pounds.
Well, I wish I did weigh 188 today. I think I'm about 10 under right now at the end of the season. But, you got to take a chance and try to make a play. And if you mess up, you can't look back. You just have to keep going along. And,
you feel the same way though about running plays. You guys, when you see it's running, you leave and attack people from the secondary. I mean, you and Andy and all that.
I think that you got to make a play and maybe force a fumble or something, but you better make sure it's a running play first.
Mark Starr?
Jake, tell our viewers, please, about the coordination that's necessary to play pass defense the way you folks play.
There was no competition on Miami.
Bill Arnsparger, he's our head coach, and there's rumors he'll be leaving. I don't know if you got the word on that or not, but he coordinates us so well, and we have to coordinate with the linebackers and with the defensive line, and everything has to be set up perfectly to work out well.
All right, Jake, congratulations. Thank you very much. Great win.
And this is Larry Little. We're back to the offensive line, and your backs have already said some beautiful things about you already, Larry.
Well, we are the best backs in pro football, no doubt about it. I'm proud to be a Miami Dolphin.
All right, Lindsey Nelson, question?
That in the first two drives, your offensive line was able to control the line of scrimmage and to do it very well, and that set the tone of the ball game. Did that work out as well or better than you had expected?
Yeah, we feel that we come off the ball, we're capable of blocking anybody in pro football, any team. We show everybody we had the best offensive line in pro football, and we did. Against a great defense.
Herb Cross?
Hey, Larry, it seemed like you were doing more than just flying off the line, though. Minnesota showed you a lot of odd alignments and looked like they were lined up in the gaps. So what kind of adjustments do you make to that sort of a...
Well, we knew Minnesota basic defense, and we were looking for them to do this, so we didn't have to make any adjustments during the game because we were well prepared for it.
Dan Kelly.
Some of your compatriots were in a little earlier, and they were talking about that this is not an emotional football team. And we hear so much about emotions in football. How can you be so successful, and how do you go about winning football games without emotion?
Well, I guess with any emotion, we know what we have to do. We don't need a lot of rah-rah to go do it. We get out there and do the job, and this is it. I know I'm not emotional. At times I am. At first when I walked into the dressing room I was, but now I've settled down now and get ready to have a ball tonight.
I bet you will. Frank Weaver.
Larry, is winning the second one anywhere near as much of a kick as winning the first one last year?
Yes, because I feel the whole team feels that without a championship, we were the champs, and they'll come to try to take something away from us. We ain't going to let them do it. And next year we'll be back again, I hope. Because we have the team to do it.
All right, Larry, congratulations on a fine job. Thank you. Have a good time tonight. Here come the receivers. Paul Warfield, Marlon Briscoe, good to see you. And you had quite an afternoon for a fellow that had a lot of questions asked about him all week.
Well, the questions certainly weren't answered until I took the field in warm-up today. And I didn't know how far and how long I could go on this leg.
Well, both of you did a fine job, and you went far enough anyway, Paul. I think we have a question now from Pete Retzlaff.
Yes, Paul, I was watching you very carefully during the warm-up, and I noticed that you really didn't run full speed. And I turned to one of the coaches, and I said, how about Paul's leg? And he said, well, we won't know until he runs full speed. Now, when did you run full speed, and when did you know?
Not until in the ball game, actually.
How about this play?
We had a play which Bob Greasy was going to throw a quick out and go to me. We were going to try to draw Bob Ryan up. They rolled to a zone, and so that's our zone adjustment. And I really had to stretch for this ball, and I didn't know if I could really come up with it.
Well, somebody said in here at that time that your leg must be all right, or you would never have gone for that the way you did.
Well, fortunately, it held up for that catch, and it held up throughout the ball game.
Dick Stockton?
Paul or Marlon, what does an outstanding running attack like the Dolphins have do for you psychologically when you're running those passes?
Well, it definitely opens up the passing game, especially in zone defenses. It keeps those linebackers honest and gives the receiver a chance to get into the lanes of the zone defense, and that's what we did today.
Tom Brookshire?
Yes, Marlon, you caught the big play down to the 1 yard line against the blitz. It looked to me like the Vikings were blitzing in that first half more than maybe I anticipated. Did you guys look for them to send the linebackers?
Yeah, we knew they were going to blitz, especially to stop the run, and they were in a blitz in that situation, and the cornerback was playing inside. That's why he was really close to me, and Bob threw the ball in there really well.
As an old quarterback, do you ever go back into the huddle and tell I think this is the play right here. Do you ever tell him that maybe he should have thrown it in a different way?
I don't think Reese listens to me too much. He does a good enough job on his own.
Great catch.
Thank you.
Yes, Jack Buck.
Oh, a lot of times when you're playing with a bad leg like that, and you want to stretch out for a ball, your head just won't let you do it. On that ball down the sideline, what'd you say? This is it? It either pops or I catch it, or the heck with it, or what?
Well, that's right. I thought that it would probably come to a play like that in which I'd have to go all out and take the chance, and it would be that, that play I would probably end me for the day. But, Jack, when I saw you on the sidelines yesterday, I've always had good luck whenever you were at my ball games, and I felt that things would be just right for me.
6 points for me, right?
That's right.
Frank Lieber.
Did you aggravate it any more now? Is it going to affect you in the Pro Bowl, say?
It's sore right now, and I expect that as I'm cooling down, my body is cooling down. Next week at the Pro Bowl, I'm really not sure of because it's a game that's really meaningless for me, and I still got a career yet.
Steve Retzlaff.
Paul,
You were reading, I think, primarily against a man-to-man defense several years ago when you first came into the league, and now the transition has been to the predominance of the zone. Now, how does that affect you as a receiver? How do you feel about it? Do you think the zone takes anything away from you?
Well, obviously I hate it. There's no secret about that. I think that, however, it is the ultimate challenge for a pass receiver to work against the zone defense and to become successful. If teams play zone as well as Miami and also Minnesota, it's very, very difficult to work against the zone. I would like to see some sort of legislation, though, and I would hate to take the zone away from the team altogether, but perhaps maybe the rules makers will look into the thing of widening the football field to create more lanes to throw the ball in, because you can't just penalize defensive teams because they employ the zone.
Paul, thank you very much. Congratulations again. Marlon, thank you very much. Now we have the defensive backs here, ladies and gentlemen. This is Curtis Johnson, and let's go here to Herb Cross.
Yeah, Curtis, I wanted to, I asked Jake Scott earlier the problem with trying to cover up in that double zone. You came up with an interception late in the game. What kind of coverage were you looking at that time?
Well, we were in one of our basic zone coverages. Tucking tried to look me off and then throw back against our zone, and I happened to be in position this time.
Yes, Tommy Mason.
Curtis, what is preparing for somebody like Tarkenton do to you? You know that 2 of the touchdowns that he scored against the Redskins were on busted plays, and that's the toughest time for you to stay with the receiver. What do you think about when he starts getting out of that pocket?
Well, the main thing is try to stay with your receiver if you're in man-to-man, and try to find out who's in your zone if you're in zone coverage. But it poses quite a problem since he can get the ball downfield.
Here's your interception, I believe, here.
Well, you can see Tarkenton looking to the other side of the field, and he threw back. I don't think he looked, you know. I was trying to go for the big 101 there.
It looked as though you really closed that zone down. You're out there in the corner, and the man ran inside on you. Came almost into the post. Do you really kind of play maybe a semi-man for man on the weak side there instead of a strict zone?
Well, when he looks away from me and rolls that way, you know, I try to pick up the receiver, you know, because our zones are, you know, closing down to that side.
Jack Buck.
Curtis, all of your teammates have talked about the Dolphins being unemotional. Are you going to smile when they hand you that check for $15,000?
All the way to the bank, you know.
All right, Curtis, thank you very much. Congratulations. Right next here we have Wayne Moore, another offensive lineman. And let's see, Lindsey?
Wayne, we were saying earlier that it appeared that early in the ball game you took charge of the line of scrimmage, and that's at the tenor of the ball game. Was any kind of special preparation for this ball game, knowing that you were going to go against something like the Minnesota front four that's so highly publicized?
Not really. We stuck to our game like we've been doing all year long. You know, we knew we had to run on them, and we knew we had to get the running game going. Because you just can't sit back and throw on these guys because they have a great front four. So we have to get the running game.
You were paired off with Jim Marshall over there, and it appeared that you were pretty well in control all day long. Did you feel that way?
Not really. Jim was a great ball player. You know, he gave me all up and down out there. He's a great ball player.
All right, John Sauer.
Wayne, I think maybe the first big play of the game was Sonka coming off tackle to the left. It was a cross block. You came down on Page. Kuchenberg came out on Marshall. I didn't see it used too often after that. Was it used more often during the game?
Right. They ran it a couple of times on the right, but it broke back to the left. So, you know, they didn't get that. I don't know what it happened. They didn't get too good of execution on the right side. But I think we tried to run again, and Jim snapped the ball a little too soon. You know, but it was there.
Well, you had a fine game, Wayne, and again, our congratulations, and thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Right. All right, we'll be back here and talk tomorrow of Super Bowl VIII winners in our enlarged CBS control here in just a moment. Factors contributing to this, not the least of which were the two teams who played here. Miami and Minnesota are both admirable organizations. And the tenor said early this week, especially by the two coaches and the players, seemed to cut through the gloomy banquet rooms and hotels where these press conferences were held, and across the maze of wire recorders and TV cameras and empty coffee cups, and whisper to all of us, hey fellas, we're down here to play a football game. An important football game, but it's not the Battle of the Planets. So let's relax and enjoy it. And I think more than any other Super Bowl that has preceded Super Bowl VIII, we were able to do that and concentrate on the game. As for the game itself, I don't think too many people thought it would go the way it did. And when Super Bowl VIII is talked about and read about and discussed, as it will be, there'll only be one word, awesome. The Miami Dolphins equal awesome. Larry Zonka, and the Miami Dolphins. Earlier this week, Don Shula said that Larry Zonka's toe problem had come up, but it would be no problem. He was going to play no matter what. And play he did today.
I think,
so in a nutshell, that is Super Bowl VIII. The awesome Miami Dolphins.
I think he figured that Mathis.
This is Jack Whitaker for CBS TV Sports at the Super Bowl in Houston, Texas.
I think that hurt him more than anything else. He was forced to sprint out to his left a little bit, which he doesn't like to do.
The NFL Today has brought you the World Champions, sponsored by Schick. It takes both the Schick razor and blade for the safe Schick injector system. And by Muriel Cigars. It's tough to put a Muriel down. And by Ford and your Ford dealer. The closer you look, the better we look.
Well, you had a great afternoon against him. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. Giving up a touchdown and not getting that shutout, what did that mean?
Well, we wanted the shutout. We talked about it before the game, and we talked about it again at halftime, and that's what we were looking for the second half. But Fran, is a diehard guy, not a quitter. The whole team's that way. They kept playing the ball game right down to the end. And when they score one touchdown on you, it's not that big a disappointment. Anytime you're in a Super Bowl game like this against another class football team, you expect to be scored on. And since it was really meaningless as it turned out, it doesn't bother me a bit.
Okay. Tommy Mason.
This program
Thanks very much,
produced by
gentlemen.
CBS Television Sports on the #1 network.